Good evening. I want to welcome everyone to the October 9th Williamson County Commissioner meeting. First item on the agenda is the invocation and pledge, tonight given by District 11 Commissioners. The pledge will be given by Commissioner Sean Aiello, and I will do the invocation. If you will, please rise.
Well, sorry, this machine makes us log in first for roll call before the mic will go.
Okay. Can I do the pledge and then
We won't be able to turn it on.
the microphone? I'll talk
Yours, but not his.
Okay, we'll be fine.
Okay.
May we pray? Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this day and all your many blessings. Thank you for this time we have to come together as a commission and make the decisions that affect the citizens of this county. We ask for your guidance as we vote on these resolutions tonight. We ask you to watch over those who watch over us, our men and women in uniform, both abroad and here at home, as well as our first responders. Thank you also for the sheriff's deputies who are here tonight. We ask for you to watch over them as they keep a close eye over each of us. We ask all of these things in your precious and holy name. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in reciting our great nation's pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next item is roll call. If you have signed in to your tablet, when it pops up on the screen, press your present button. Call the roll, please, Mr. Whidbey.
20 present, 4 absent. Commissioners Clifford, Commissioner Jones, Commissioner Nations, and Commissioner Torres absent.
I heard from most of them that they were not going to be able to be here this evening. Next, we have approval of the minutes. I'll look for a motion here. I've got a proper motion from Tom Tunnicliffe, seconded by Commissioner Jennifer Mason. Any additions or corrections to the minutes of the September 11th meeting? We do have one. Commissioner Herbert?
On page 1, it's got Commissioner Walton instead of Commissioner Bethard
I
at the bottom.
got that. Yep.
Make that correction. Any other additions or corrections to the minutes? Seeing none, if you're ready to vote, if you're in favor of accepting the minutes, signify by pressing your yes button. Any opposed, your no. Anyone wishing to change their vote, please do so at this time. Record the vote, please, Mr. Whidbey.
20 yes, 0 no.
Minutes are approved. Next, we have citizens' communications. Our rules allow up to 3 minutes per speaker. I will call you up in the order in which you signed in. And if you will, when you get to the podium, please announce your name and the city in which you live. And first up, we have,
I can't read it.
It's-
Penny.
I hope I'm pronouncing the last name correctly, Penny Kennel? Kinley, okay.
Hello, my name is Penny Kimley, and I live at 2954 Spantown Road, Arrington. And first, I would like to thank you for your service to our community. Greatly appreciated. I would also like to thank the equestrian community who have come out this evening to show their support for safer equestrian trails, and to the 734 supporters who signed our petition to support more horse trails in Williamson County. Our grassroots organization is Williamson County Equestrian for Shared Greenways. Would like to express our appreciation to Director Hampton and Mr. Colbreth for meeting us on August 15th, 2023. They listened and gave us suggestions to help develop more horse trails in Williamson County, and we are very grateful for that. So why did our group form? It was becoming clear safe equestrian trails were needed as more farmland we rode across fell to development. Our rural roads horse riders traveled on are now congested with traffic. Bike and pedestrian trails are being developed, but little for the equestrian community. So our mission is to assist various government and private agencies in the establishment, maintenance, and management of safe equestrian trails in Williamson County, public parks, and greenways to preserve the culture of horses and rural life. The Triune community wanted to keep as much of their rural roots by including horse trails in their plan. The Triune Special Area Plan on page 23 states, pursue the development of multimodal greenway trails. These trails can provide valuable recreational opportunities for pedestrians, bicyclists, and equestrians, and can connect residential areas with various destination points in the community. Even the 2040 Williamson County Comprehensive Plan states in their objectives that agriculture and equestrian uses are encouraged to continue in rural areas, but as such uses are converted to non-agricultural uses, the rural density, character, and sensitive environmental features of the area will be preserved. By creating equestrian trails, Williamson County will help preserve character and sensitive environmental features and provide safer areas for the community to have shared trails. So you have some fans on your desk, and some of those will be of your local citizens, and also just historical pictures that the horse played in developing Williamson County. Thank you.
Next, we have Lucy Hatcher.
Hi there, Lucy Hatcher. Excuse me, I'm getting over hip replacement. Lucy Hatcher, I live in College Grove, and I'm in my early 60s, and I've lived on the family historical farm on Arno Road for most of my life. And 50 years ago, we could ride ponies up and down Arno Road safely without supervision from farm to farm. Farmers would let us ride on adjoining properties, and there was an unlimited resources for riding horses. And as you know, our county is one of the wealthiest counties in the nation. And I don't know what 50 years looks like from now, but I envision it being less and less agriculture as I've watched it dwindle so much. But we have a huge influence with equestrians in our county, and the properties have gotten smaller and smaller with less access of places to ride. And horses don't like to be in small areas just riding circles. Even the show people need to get their horses out on trails. And I would just ask that whatever it might look like in the future, that we start holding some space, some shared spaces, hopefully, not separate, where the equestrians can still be part of the rich heritage of our beautiful, wonderful county, and will be added value and not a burden to the county. Thank you.
Next, I believe we have Ginger Sterling. Sherling, I'm sorry.
Hi, Ginger Sherling, Osborne Road, Arrington, Tennessee, 5th District. And I would very much appreciate the opportunity to speak to you tonight. Greetings. I am part of the Williamson County Equestrians for Shared Greenways, known as WCESG. We see an opportunity for shared trails in our parks located in the southeastern part of our county. Our group is composed of experienced leaders in the local equestrian community, including numerous riding clubs, training facilities, and commercial endeavors. And perhaps you have seen our signs. I hope you have. I hope very much that you have. In the surrounding counties and throughout our state, we see prime examples of horse trails with creative methods of construction that allow shared spaces, which was a new idea to me, but I'm learning about that. However, in Williamson County, with our rich equestrian history, we're on everywhere, we do not have these opportunities, very few of them. Yes, we have excitement regarding the future upgrades that Renaissance and Peacock Hill could offer. However, I haven't yet seen mention of trails other than those for walkers. We stand as a group ready to offer support, plus a wealth of experience and knowledge. And I thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Next, we have Joe Marley.
My name's Joe Marley. I live about a mile from here in Franklin, in a family place. I can remember my mother telling me, probably in the 30s, that she remembers her and her grandmother driving to the ice house in downtown Franklin in a pony cart and going back and forth to get their ice. Like Lucy, I've ridden up and down the roads here in Williamson County on horseback. I remember when I was in high school, we would ride from Kingfield to the rodeo to be in the parade and then ride back. Really no problem. Well, that's not happening nowadays. I think as we look at the demographics and things, how they've changed, how the zoning has changed, where we're going to see 5, 10, 15-acre lots, a lot of those people are going to have horses, 1 or 2. I was raised in a competitive environment riding. Now, as I've got older, I like to trail ride. I like the peace of that. And I think we see a lot of people are going that route. If you go up to Jamestown, a lot of different trail places up there. You see in 15, 20-acre lots where people are having communities where several of them get together and they buy other acreage and they ride there adjacent to parks. As we look into the future, think about that and what the demographics is going to look like. What are these people who do have horses, where are they going to ride? We look at now, Percy Warner is a great asset. It's probably the best place to ride around here. It's Metro. Natchez Trace, it's federal. It's a good place to ride. Harlansdale, it's not that big, but I like to ride there and lope in the open pastures. And then Bowie, it's a great resource. It's the city of Franklin. I'm glad to see Williamson County Parks getting into the game, and they've been very supportive, and they've got a good plan. And I ask that you support what they're going to do. Thank you.
Next, we have Wayne Hall.
Commission. I'm Wayne Hall. I live in Fairview at 1053 Braden Drive. I am currently a commissioner there, and I will say something about Bowie Park. It is in Fairview and not Franklin. And I was one of them. I was the one that led the charge to get Bowie under a land trust, and we have several trails in there many years ago, so it'll always be there. So anyway, my main purpose to be here tonight is to thank the commission for their support of the Parks and Recreation Division. We recently, back in the middle of the summer, when the hot 90-degree days, we had a World Series for girls softball. We had 11 states come to Fairview. We had 11 teams, of course, but one age group only had 10, so we had 252 young girls come to play softball in Fairview. It was about a 5-day event. It was very crowded there in Fairview, but unfortunately we don't have hotels and stuff, so they had to come to Franklin to spend a lot of their money here. So, but anyway, I want to thank the board for always supporting the Parks and Recreation Division, as well as all the other divisions, and I know what all y'all have on you because I have some of that on me also. But anyway, thanks again, and support these people on their horseback. So I'm a horse person too. Thank you.
Mr. Hall. Next, we have Lee Whitson.
Hello, my name is Lee Wilson. I live in Franklin. I'm here tonight to bring awareness around concerns with cell phone towers near schools, hospitals, parks, and high-density areas. The specific tower I'm speaking to tonight is regards to Trinity Elementary School. It's about 600 feet away from school property. We've been talking with lawyers, doctors who specialize in this area. They're willing to meet and talk with the mayor and the mayor's staff of directors, as well as each of you commissioners. We can schedule a Zoom call as early as this week. If that fits with everyone's schedule, we would love to share that share their expertise so that we can collaborate and partner together in making sure that we are connecting our community while also keeping our children and our staff safe. Several states have passed laws on setback rules with no electrical structures that can be placed, built, or constructed within 1,500 feet of school property. I would suggest that we join these states in doing everything we can to protect our children, staff, and teachers. I understand a resolution is being prepared to vote on the easement of the fiber optic cables. If this is not improved, the alternate option is microwaves will be blasted into the air. You guys are being asked to vote on the lesser of two evils. I would suggest a third option, that we put a pause button on all this. Let's have some time to really do our research to see if we can find conclusive evidence that this is truly safe and make sure that we're doing the best we can to keep our community safe. No one wants a lawsuit here. We're not against cell towers. We just don't want it this close to schools, hospitals, or these areas. Everywhere you drive, you see these cell towers. We know we can't live without them in this world today. We just don't want it 600 feet away from a school. The mayor's concurred that it would be best to move it, and he's been working diligently with Vogue Towers. However, they are not willing. So I think we need to continue to push on Vogue Towers to see what the contracts show. It costs $150,000 to build this tower. The company that put this up specializes in decommissioning these towers as well. I can't imagine it would cost anything less than that. Based on the leases from average from AT&T, Verizon, where they pay per month, this tower will pay for itself in about a year. Please do everything you can to help us and make sure this is safe for our community as well as our children and our county. Thank you.
Wilson. Adam Melcher.
Good evening. My name's Adam Melcher from the Harpeth Woods subdivision, Franklin. Today, I represent a unified voice of Williamson County residents, many of whom feel unheard amidst rapid development changes. We've watched our county transform from serene pastures to thriving communities, and this progress, while promising economic growth, has also had its downsides. We believe that development should not result in the sidelining of the very people who have been the backbone of this county for generations. The urban growth boundary was envisioned as a safeguard against unchecked urban sprawl. Yet Thompson Station and Spring Hill have turned it into a tool that, instead of shielding our residents, now threatens our very homes and lands. During these past months, we've seen the strength of our community, where multi-generational landowners alike unite with newer residents. We've witnessed the solidarity of 92-year-old landowners and 18-year-olds alike. Yet it's disheartening that our unity emerges from a need to challenge a municipality that many of us neither chose nor voted for. While commissioners from the affected districts have given us their utmost support, this battle cannot be won alone. Today, it's Districts 1, 2, and 3 facing these challenges. Tomorrow, it could be yours. Remember, for many, you're not just a representative. You're our sole voice. If the coordinating committee fails to protect our right to have a say in what happens to our homes, the responsibility will undeniably rest with you. As the potential vote on the urban growth boundary approaches, I urge you to champion the unheard voices. Let's not let development displace our longstanding residents. Advocate for a Williamson County that treasures its residents as much as its landscapes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Melcher. And our last speaker this evening is Jane Sadler.
Good evening. I'm Jane Sadler. I'm from Thompson Station, and I'm up here to echo the same sentiments of Mr. Melcher. We are currently going through the urban growth boundary and growth plans. As you all know, urban growth and annexation are two totally different options. However, we all have to be honest with one another to say that when you do an urban growth boundary, annexation is sure to follow. The towns of Thompson Station and Spring Hill have gone completely with no regard for anyone's health, welfare, safety, and have expanded at an astronomical rate. Their rates of growth are in the 300% over the last few years. You have the ability to slow this growth and encourage them to become responsible for the areas that they are currently in. Have them develop the areas that they already control, and then later on let them look at our other areas. They say that it's only impacting Thompson Station and Spring Hill, but it's not. For every school that's being built in this county, it will impact every taxpayer in this county. Not only will we have to have more schools, we'll have more fire, ambulance, police. We'll also need the equipment in those buildings. We'll need staffing. So every action that the town of Thompson Station and the city of Spring Hill take as far as unregulated, uncontrolled growth impacts the entire county. We have to hold them to their current boundaries and let their growth catch up. Spring Hill says that they invested somewhere between $50 and $80 million on a connector for the new Buckner interchange. That $80 million could have been spent within their boundaries to protect their roads and their citizenry. They're not doing that. We're asking all of you to please protect this beautiful county. I've been a resident my entire life. I was born in this building. I'm asking everybody to look at this area and talk to these people. Talk to your constituents and ask them, do they want increased taxes? Because we have two municipalities who refuse to play nice and who refuse to do any planning on their growth. Thank you.
That concludes citizen communications. Next up, we have communications and messages. There is one late filed resolution this evening, Resolution 102327. If there are no objections, we will hear that resolution under appropriations. I see no objections, so that'll be the last resolution under appropriations. We have two proclamations this evening. I'll call on Mayor Rogers Anderson. I thought he would introduce Jack. Along with, go ahead, Mr. Mayor. Give you that back.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If I could have friends of the library and come up. Where are you? And Jessica, yes. Jessica, there you are. So tonight we have a proclamation for Library Week. We've got the friend, yeah.
They're back. You know how librarians are, right?
So should I introduce Jack Johnson?
In your folder tonight, you should have this proclamation, a copy of that. And it is Friends of the Library Week. Whereas Friends of the Williamson County Public Library raise money that enables our libraries to move from good to great, providing the resources for additional programming, much needed equipment, support for special events, and performs throughout the year. Whereas the work of the Friends highlights on an ongoing basis the fact that our library is the cornerstone of the community, providing opportunities for all to engage in the joy of lifelong learning and connect with the thoughts and the ideas of others from ages past to the present. Whereas the Friends understand the critical importance of well-funded libraries and advocate to ensure that our library gets the resources it needs to provide a wide variety of services to all ages, including access to print and electronic material, along with expert assistance in research, readers advisory, and children's services. Whereas the Friends' gift of their time and the commitment to the library set an example for all in how volunteerism leads to a positive engagement and the betterment of our community. It is by my signature this week, tonight, that I've signed October 15th through the 21st as Friends of the Library Week in Williamson County. On behalf of that, I would like to present this to Jessica and any remarks you would like to make.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to recognize this proclamation and the importance of our Friends groups at our various branches. The number of hours that our Friends put in is just so valuable to our system, and that they see the importance of volunteering for our library system. I'd like to see if Dave would like to say a few words real quick. Thank you.
Good evening. My name's David Miller. I'm the president of the Friends of the Library here in Franklin. We have branches that are also represented here tonight, along with the library board. The importance of volunteerism in the community, it was stressed in Mr. Mayor's comments at the State of the County address earlier this year. And I took that to heart because there's a lot of work that's being done in the county by volunteers that not only saves the county money, but in turn, those volunteers pick up and do work in the library with donations. We turn that process into additional funding that comes back to the library at the end of the year through our nonprofit organization, Friends of the Library. And I just want everybody to realize that there are a number of people here in the county that do a lot of work for the love and benefit of the library. And thank you.
We have a special guest with us this evening, and for the next proclamation, I will invite up to the podium the esteemed Senator Jack Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commission. It's a pleasure to be with you this evening. There are a lot of things that make me very proud to call this county home, but one of those things is the lengths to which this body and the people of Williamson County go to honor and care for our veterans. And many of you know that the individual who has led that effort for the last 4 or 5 years recently retired. And if it's admissible, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to invite Mr. Jeff Vaughn and his family to join me at the lectern, if that'd be okay. Mr. Chairman, this body knows, and I hope that the people of Williamson County know, what an amazing job Jeff has done in terms of running the Veterans Service Office here in Williamson County. Not only did Jeff do an amazing job of running that very important department here in Williamson County, but he also served our nation in uniform from 1991 to 2013. He served in the United States Marine Corps. He served as an infantry squad leader. And I didn't know this, Jeff. I knew you were smart, but you were a nuclear, biological, and chemical defense team leader. So that certainly requires a high degree of intellect. He was a helicopter crew chief, a quality assurance representative, and a weapons and tactics instructor, and a flight line division chief, and a director of training. He was also heavily decorated for his sterling service in the United States Marine Corps. He was awarded the Air Medal, the Navy Marine Corps Commendation Medal, and the Navy Marine Corps Achievement Medal. I've had the pleasure of working along with Ms. Giddens and Jeff and others with our Hometown Heroes event that we've done for the last couple of years at the Williamson County Fair, where we honor veterans who have not only served our nation so admirably, but they have also contributed back to our community. So I thought it was altogether appropriate, in recognition of Jeff's service to Williamson County and the state of Tennessee, that he be honored. And so I'm very pleased to be here tonight to present to him a Senate proclamation honoring his service to Williamson County and the state of Tennessee. So Jeff, thank you for your service, and we wish you the best of luck in your retirement.
Vaughn, would you like to say anything, or?
He didn't hear.
Okay. Thank you, Senator. Next up, we have reports of county offices. Once again, I'll call upon Mayor Rogers Anderson.
Chairman, thank you, and to the commission. Before Jeff gets out of here, he did a great job, but the one thing Jack did not pick up on, that his wife is the owner of $5 Bakery, one of the best bakeries in town. So all of you would recognize that place. She got a larger clap, Jeff, than you did. So to get started this evening.
Mr. Mayor, And I would ask that you correct the name of the bakery,
You're right.
Triple Crown.
Triple Crown.
Crown Bakery.
That's what you get for trying to do extemporaneously. So let me get off the front page of the paper and see if I can get Phoebe to come up and give you a snapshot of the county reports. And then I am going to have a couple of things to announce afterwards. Phoebe.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. I am happy to report an increase in revenue collections for the month of August in the areas of Cool Springs Conference Center, privilege tax, and education impact fee. That will be the first time I've gotten to do that in the last few months. Usually I say, oh, we had a great month here, but this month I can actually say for the month of August, collections for the Cool Springs Conference Center, the county received $79,690. And that is the highest that it has been since April. So that's great news. We also received an increase in building permits, which also gave us an increase for education impact fee as well as privilege tax collections. For the month of August, we did collect a little over $1.5 million in privilege tax funds, which was an increase of $445,000, and education impact fee corresponded along the same lines with an increase of $579,000 for the month. So both of those permit collections for this month has been a great deal more than what we have seen in the last few months. So that is a great news to report on. If you will see included, there's a few items in your packet. As you all know, we have two resolutions coming to you this evening for some debt resolutions. There is included in your packet, hopefully you have had a chance to look over that, a breakdown of what those funds will be expended for and what we are asking for in each of those areas. I did receive a couple of questions, and a couple of you had asked regarding the land purchase of 12.5. The question was posed to me, could we possibly pull that from fund balance? And I wanted to let you know that I did follow up, and based on the fact that this is just a county purchase of land, this is not trying to extend our footprint or anything with solid waste, so therefore it is just county properties, then we would be able to pull those from fund balance if you so choose to tonight. In relationship to that, the next report you will see will be a copy of the September fund balance where we stand as of today. So we are just getting our revenues in for September. We have not had an opportunity to balance those completely, but those are our projections, and that's what we are looking as a ending fund balance for the September. You can see that we have broken out general fund, solid waste, highway, and both debt service. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer and take those at this time.
Questions for Mrs. Riley? I see none. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I could have Maureen Thornton from the CVB come up. She has some information for you.
Thank you. I wanted to thank you all for the time and opportunity to speak to you and for your service to our community, and say this is my favorite time of year to come and talk to you guys. It's sort of like our in tourism Christmas morning. I come to share with you the economic impact numbers from calendar year 2022. As you know, the county led the creation of our organization, the Williamson County Convention and Visitors Bureau, a number of years ago, and we've been working really hard ever since to make sure that we're providing a great return on your investment of hotel occupancy tax dollars. So we appreciate the support and know that tourism dollars represent money that's spent in our community by non-residents who come, spend their money, support our local businesses, generate tax revenue, and then they go home. And because of that work at the state level to circulate and calculate all of the information about where that money is spent, it takes us a little while to get the numbers. So here we are in October of 2023 talking about 2022, but I am here to share the numbers from 2022, and they are exciting. In 2022, visitors directly spent $1.195 billion in Williamson County. That equates to $3.28 million each and every day of 2022. That actually breaks our previous pre-pandemic spending record by nearly $70 million. That also ranks us number 6 of the 95 counties in the state of Tennessee, just behind Hamilton County and Chattanooga. The result of that is not only the contribution to supporting the local businesses and employment, but it also creates a tax savings for households in Williamson County. This year, that number is $1,522 per household in Williamson County saved as a combination of tax revenue from local and state. That number is an increase from 2021, which was $1,111. So I'm here today to share, to celebrate, and to thank you for your support of tourism and the positive impact it has on our community. I've left you all with a copy of our current visitor guide, a tourism pays card so you can remember those numbers I spouted out easily, and my business card. I look forward to the opportunity to continue our partnership and hear from you now and at any time. Thank you.
Gordon.
Chairman, my final report will come from legal counsel Jeff and give a snapshot as he is looking at and explaining from day one our opioid task force that many of you had the opportunity to vote on several years back, and everything that's occurred since then, the amount of money that has been generated throughout the nation at the local level. If you would allow Jeff to speak on that, I would appreciate it.
Thank you, Mayor. As many of you remember, in December of 2017, the County Commission authorized Williamson County to file in the multi-district litigation involving opioid abuse, which was successfully negotiated as a national settlement and will be receiving monies over well past the next decade as those monies come about. The first round of settlements will result in over $5 million received by the county. There have been subsequent settlements that should add $2 to $3 million to that over approximately the same period. So we will have some funds coming in on a yearly basis. As a result of that, you all did create the Opioid Task Force to make recommendations to you as the appropriating body as to how those monies will be utilized. Now, they are limited by the national settlement as to how they can be used. For either certain monies can be used for reimbursement of past abatement costs. Some can only be used for prospective abatement issues for the county. So in that regard, you've got a task force looking at that that'll make recommendations. The reason the mayor wants me to update this now is next month you will be seeing the first of the resolutions as to how to appropriate opioid monies. The county currently has about $1.1 million in opioid funds that will be granted to programs who have applied for the use of those funds, and we received 13 applications for that, slightly more than the 1.1, so everybody's not going to get dollar for dollar what they've asked for, but that's the task force job, and they will be meeting in order to make those recommendations to you for appropriation of those funds in January to start the grant cycle. This will be an annual process, so this is the first time you'll see it because we will receive more distributions next year from the first settlement, the second settlement, and it was just announced that Kroger had a settlement that we will be part of as well. So all of that to say this is not the last you'll hear of it, but next month you'll see the first of those recommendations from the mayor via the Opioid Task Force, and we'll go from there.
Chairman, one of the reasons we wanted to bring this update to you on the task force is that to remind all of you over the last several years, we've been making a very strong push to generate or help generate or qualify for revenue within different streams that we have available to us. One of them through legal counsel, which, by the way, didn't cost us anything. That was all paid by large law firm. And I have to give my hat off to Jeff. He really fought a gallant fight at the state level, arguing and giving our side of the story for the counties across this state to be sure this money's not treated exactly like it was some 20-plus years ago with the tobacco settlement, which wound up in the state's hand, and that money never really got down, filtered back into the local level. This time we took a different approach. There were 2 or 3 different buckets this money goes in, and it is being monitored, and I appreciate Phoebe for what she's doing in the committee. This goes along with several other things that we are trying to do. You heard some of the citizens speak about the acreage that we've got in our county. A few years ago, we put in the 5-acre out in the unincorporated part about limiting growth to 1 house per 5 acres. That has generated some of these large numbers that you see from Phoebe every single month. That's just one example. About this time last year, not quite, we engaged someone to write grants for us. You will see a heavy load of grants and have been seeing for the last 2 and 3 months. So we're doing everything we can at the local level, keep those taxes down. Appreciate Marlene's comments about the CVB and tourism. That $1,500 a month helps to hold individual taxes down, along with the grants, along with the opioid settlement, to deal with the issues that we have to here in our county, and the many other things that we're working on to keep that revenue stream going other than just in the area of property taxes. Mr. Chairman, that's the end of my report. I'll answer any questions if you have any.
Questions for the mayor? Neither Jason Golden or Rachel Farmer could be with us this evening. However, I believe Jason Golden sent an email to each of the commissioners today. If there are no questions on that email, and I don't know who we would direct them to if there were, then we'll move on to the Williamson Medical Center, where I believe Mike Genesee is here. Oh, and Julie Miller. Welcome.
Good evening. Julie Miller, Chief Operating Officer at Williamson Health. Just wanted to give you a brief update on our expansion project. We are still on schedule and construction is going well. Last week, we received occupancy for Phase 2 of OB and started seeing patients in our 4 newly renovated labor and delivery rooms in the east wing of OB. We have now started Phase 3 of OB, which is renovating 5 more labor and delivery rooms. The timeline for that area is to be completed in mid to late January. For ER, our Phase 3 is almost complete. We have inspections scheduled and hope to be seeing patients in 14 newly renovated ER rooms by October 25th. At that time, we will move into Phase 4, which is scheduled to be handed over to us by end of December so we can get the exam rooms patient-ready and hopefully seeing patients in January. When that happens, we will go from 28 beds to 37 beds. The West Tower is still on schedule, going very well. Masonry will be completed by January 16th, and the tower crane will be dismantled early February. Any questions?
Questions for Julie Miller?
If not, I'll let Mike Genesee come up and talk financials.
Okay.
Good evening. As usual, I'll summarize the August results, and it's on the financial statement highlights page. We had good volume in August. It made up for a little bit of a shortfall in July, and we saw the most volume increase in our outpatient surgeries. So you can see that we were pretty much ahead of all of our key stats. You know, patient days are okay to be down, but our admissions are up and our surgeries are up. With that, we generated almost $29 million in net revenue. We had about $28 million in OpEx. Some other, with interest income and so forth. So we were able to exceed our budget this month by about $600,000 on a year-to-date basis. Only the first 2 months were up $400,000. So if you remember, in July, we actually missed our budget by about $175,000. I know you all had good collection months. We had a record collection month ourselves. We collected about $29 million in collections for the 23 collection days that we had. excluding our bond debt cash, we had 102 days of cash on hand. We have a debt covenant of 90, so we exceeded that. And our debt coverage itself was a 2.8 versus a 1.5 debt covenant. So overall, we had a very strong August. Any questions?
Questions from Mr. Genesee? I see none. At this time, the chair recognizes Commissioner Paul Webb.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Our packet tonight, Resolution 102323, goes over the countywide Parks and Recreation Master Plan. So, Mr. Chair, if you don't mind, I'd like to ask our director, Mr. Hampton, to come up and discuss that at this point in the meeting.
Thank you both, chairman of the Parks and Rec Committee, chairman of the commission, for letting me come up early. This is something we've been wanting to do for quite a while. This is going to give you a report about the master plan. But before we do that, I would like to make a couple of remarks about a couple other things. First of all, I want to thank Commissioner Wayne Hall from Fairview. What he failed to mention is just to remind everybody that, this was a successful partnership where the city of Fairview saved the county over $150,000, where we partnered on putting the lights in for the ball field, which allowed them to have that tremendously successful World Series event there. So once again, you can take that back to your constituents and your board, that we really appreciate that from the Parks and Rec side, and I'm sure they do too. You're welcome. I'd also like to thank the folks that are here tonight from the equestrian community. We did have a positive meeting with that group a couple of weeks ago, and there will be some mentions of some multimodal trails opportunities in the master plan when we get to that. And so, thank y'all very much for being so kind and gracious in the way that you're presenting. I appreciate your patience. Also, a couple of weeks ago, the meeting in September, you approved Williamson County Parks to enter into an agreement with Highwoods to open up the Maryland Farms, or reopen the Maryland Farms tennis facility. Not a day goes by that we don't get some kind of inquiries from the public about clarification about, what's going on, how can we participate, what's the deal with the partnership, what's this, what's that. So I would like to kind of give you a brief little snapshot, as the mayor likes to refer to it as, about what's going on. So you realize that we met the second week of September on for the county commission meeting. We didn't open it until you approved Parks and Rec going in and doing that. The first week that we opened it, that Tuesday through that Saturday, we did not charge any admission. We did that as a way to welcome the community in so that they could come in to the facility, see everything that we've done, and just expose all the opportunities for them to pick up and do things. Since then, in just 3 short weeks, we've had over 700 individual transactions. Revenues collected are over $150,000, and we're well on our way to recovering the hard costs necessary to keep that building open and operated for a while. So it's been very, very well received, and we haven't even scratched the surface yet because the weather's been so beautiful that people really haven't had to come inside and spend a lot of money inside. So it is a pleasure to report to you that that has been a tremendous success up to this point. So what I'd like to do now is introduce 2 gentlemen that are going to be here, come up here and take over for a second. Wally Blaine and Sammy McCoy from Benish are here, and they're going to go over the master plan for you.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, board members. Wally Blaine with Benish. It's a privilege to be here before you and present on the master plan. I will go through an update of the process we do, but I do want to say how impressed I was working with the staff of the Parks Department. Very engaged throughout the whole process. I'll talk about the outreach we did to the community and the public. Your superintendents, director were very involved, and it was very important to them to make sure that the customer service side of the Parks Department was top-notch, and it was a pleasure to work with your staff on this. So as I get started, just on the presentation, want to give you a quick update of what the steps are that we went through in the master plan process, give you an overview of how we went through those, a couple of data collection, inventory type steps along the way. In the beginning, we went out for outreach to the public and got a tremendous amount of public feedback. From our data and inventory, we did our analysis and assessment of what the needs are, and really that formulates what our recommendations are for you in the master plan. Keeping in mind the master plan covers a 10-year period, and the goal of the master plan is to identify what are those future activities, those ongoing activities that the Parks Department should be engaged in actively to make sure that when they're coming on an annual basis for the capital improvements program, they have a list of activities to begin to work through. I want to also hit on just the demographic profile and what we did from a community perspective. Not only do we look at what are your current demographics, who lives here, you've heard information about income, so what is the income level of people in Williamson County compared to the greater Nashville region, compared to the state as a whole? What does it look like from a demographic profile of age? We also looked then in coordination with the MPOs, the Nashville MPOs, long-range forecast or projections of population that have it spread throughout the county, consistent with your growth plan that it recognizes the urban growth boundaries. So we want to look at not what are you providing today. If we looked at what that future population was going to be, what does that mean we need to be providing into the future? So that feeds into why we collect that demographic information on the front, and then how it feeds into our assessment on the backside. As part of the inventorying, we went out and toured all of your facilities, did a site inventory of all of those, looked at the condition of the fields, and what this comes down to then is through this inventory, we're able to say, here are the programs and the activities that are ongoing at each of the locations, and then do an assessment of what are some specific site recommendations that the master plan would have in place. The goal then being, from a master plan perspective, what are the things we can identify, and then what are the things that can be implemented as time moves on. So you can see from here, 36 individual facilities currently as part of the inventory. Certainly there are those that are in the works to become and added to the facility as well. About 1,500 acres of land that are covered by those, and 9 where you have indoor recreational complexes as part of the inventory. So again, that helps us to understand what's out there, and it feeds into that assessment that we do later on. As far as the public engagement, we used a myriad of methods, right? We have several methods that we used for engaging. The first was stakeholder interviews. We had 9 interviews that we conducted. Those were primarily with the superintendents that know day in and day out operationally what's going on. There was also coordination with the school board from that, because you have a great partnership with the school board and how you work together from a parks and schools perspective. And then there were a couple of elected officials that were included as part of that stakeholder interview on the front end. We had I believe it was 6 focus groups that were held, and the purpose for the focus groups were to find a specific cohort of users of the park system to be able to get from them a more in-depth review and an assessment of what the conditions are, and some feedback that helped us, again, formulate what the recommendations are moving forward. Outreach to the general public, we had 4 specific open houses. The first was out at the Fairview Recreation Center, the second was at Longview, the third was over in Nolansville, and the fourth was at the library in Brentwood. So we made sure we had good geographic coverage. We didn't hit specifically Franklin, because Franklin, as their Parks Department, had just recently finished their master plan as well, so felt like we had good information from the city of Franklin that way. So we wanted to make sure that we got good coverage around the county. We had over 600 individuals that were involved in those meetings. And again, staff was very involved in the activities that we had. The questions that we asked the public, what is important to you and you don't feel like is provided? And then we also let them play the government game. We gave them, I won't tell you their poker chips, but we gave them 10 chips and said, if you had $100 to spend, how would you spend it? So it let us know what is important and then how they would prioritize funding. Again, allows us to combine together those recommendations from the master plan. The online survey that we did ran about this time last year through the month of October, and by far the greatest overwhelming response I have seen from an individual survey. We had over 6,000 individual responses. One of the questions we asked was about household size. If one person's responding for the household, how many people are in the household? And many households were represented that had multiple family members. So while none of this was statistically valid, we didn't have a statistically valid sampling. We wanted everybody's engagement and activity, a tremendous amount of responses that came back. The final activity that we did, coordinated with the Convention Visitors Bureau, was to say what could be done from a sports tourism opportunity. Are there opportunities to look at it? Certainly from the Parks Department objective, and the purpose of the master plan is how are we providing parks and recreational services to the community, but are there opportunities for those to be paired together that create some synergy for maybe having some regional facilities that could be hosted for events? A lot of the comments that we received from the families that came to the open houses that travel for certain recreational activities, be it a ball tournament or a swimming meet or anything like that, was they'd like to have the opportunity to be local as well and not have to travel themselves. So we want the master plan to stay focused on the community as a whole, but what are those opportunities that can be paired together? And a great opportunity working with the Convention Visitors Bureau to kind of look at that from an economic standpoint. So all of that outreach, what does it boil down to? We pared it down to really the three top topics that came out of there. Racket sports was overwhelming, the thing that was mentioned the most. You heard from your director about the opening of Maryland Farms. While our outreach was going on, there was a lot of uncertainty that happened about that. But that wasn't the only reason why we heard those comments. We heard comments about racket sports out in Fairview, down in at the Longview Rec Center, down in Spring Hill, over in Nolensville as well. So there was a community-wide interest in racket sports. What are we doing to provide that for today? Something that has become, especially with pickleball, a more popular up-and-coming sport and activity. Aquatics was another comment that we heard a lot about. And certainly we heard from those that are in the competitive swimming environment, but we also heard from young families or families with young children that want to have the splash pads. They want to have recreational opportunities for swimming. We also heard from our senior community where they want activities where they can just have fitness opportunities in aquatics as well. So aquatics is another one that we heard high in quantity from. But we also heard across the board in different activities. And then trail connectivity, you've heard from the equestrian community this evening. Certainly when we had our Nolensville meeting, we had a lot of folks from the eastern and southern portion of the county that came to those meetings. And not only was it about bike and ped and multimodal recreational, it was on the equestrian side as well. So we heard a cross pollination or across communication from the community about what those trail facilities would look like. And I'll talk more about what our recommendation is tied to all of these as we move forward. So from the needs assessment, we took our existing conditions of our facilities and looked at what are our future conditions. One of the things that happens in the parks world is there's not a defined level of service standard. Sometimes we look at our roadways and we know what the capacity of our roadway system is. From a parks and recreation standpoint, it's more about what do you want to provide as far as a quality of life service to the community, and how do you measure up or stack up against other like communities or similar communities across the nation? So the National Parks and Recreation Association collects information just like we did on the inventory. They collect inventory information from other parks departments, and they're able to give us some different benchmarks. And so I'll talk about what that graphic represents from those benchmarks. But when we looked at those, we narrowed it down to communities that are not just similar to Williamson County in population size, but also in population density. You can have a much smaller geographic area that has a similar population number, but the density is much higher and has a different need. So we tried to blend those two together to really get an understanding of who are you peers with from that perspective. And it is, the best part about this is it's anonymous. We don't know who's reporting to the National Parks and Recreation Association. So we're able to kind of pair that together as good data. So the measures that we looked at as far as acreage of parkland, how much parkland is out there, what is your indoor square footage facility? Certainly, different communities are going to vary on that. What are your facilities? How many facilities are there within specific categories on a per capita basis? How about access? We looked at the distribution geographically around the community and where are certain facilities located to identify gaps and where the needs are. And then where are you in funding per acre? So what I have on the screen is just one chart. It would be overwhelming and take a long time to walk through all of them. But just to give you an idea, the bars on the chart progress from left to right as time would go on. So as we start today in this measure, that is park acreage, where are you per capita in the number of acres? And clearly as population increases, and we've not increased our inventory, the measure goes down, right? We're not going to provide as much if our population goes up. But it helps us benchmark that and say, in that golden color is the mean average from the National Parks and Rec Association of communities like size, how many acres per capita are displayed. And that red color there is the top quartile or the 75th percentile when it comes to the measured data. So it gives us an idea to say, in order to meet these certain benchmarks, this is what would need to be added to the inventory over time. And again, it's information that's able to feed into the master plan process. So as we walked through the inventory, as we looked at the benchmarked measures, what does it suggest from the data side that we need? We need more multi-use tennis and pickleball courts. Certainly there's a corollary there with what we heard from the community. We need more indoor swimming and diving facilities. Again, common with what we heard from the public. More diamond ball fields for ball playing. We need more senior centers. Primarily that's because from the inventory side, it's the enrichment center that has the one senior center for the entire community, which is a great asset and people were real proud to have. More playgrounds. Multi-purpose rectangular fields would cover soccer, football, and lacrosse. While there is a great number of facilities from a per capita standpoint, we maybe need to add some more, and then some more nature centers. So as we looked at from our data side, and we looked at what we heard from the public comment, great alignment in what the recommendations are moving forward. So when we pull all that together, here are just a couple of keys that came out of the master plan as you think over the next 10 years what you should be doing. First is to prioritize land acquisition, one of our focus groups was on outdoor sports and recreation, and it was their top thing that they talked about. So you had nature enthusiasts, you had folks that were involved in the Wilkin Branch bike park, and so definitely the desire to see land acquisition. And so there's recommendations that are drawn out about who you could partner with from the private side and land conservation and opportunities to preserve land. One of the things that came out of that Convention or Visitor Bureau Sports Tourism Workshop was a discussion about the existing asset that Williamson County has in the Ag Expo Park. So are there opportunities to further the use of that facility that could become opportunities for the Parks Department to have facility space, or could there be opportunities to expand the footprint out there and do certain things? So we don't know that from the master plan's perspective, but doing a space utilization study and looking for those opportunities may be the first step to identify what that is. Developing a joint use agreement with schools. Part of the master plan has some discussion about some other parks departments that have great agreements with schools. And so some of those are on the operation and maintenance side. Some of those are on the development side and design of what facilities look like. But the joint use of how facilities could be used jointly together across a parks department and the school board. Development of a Greenway master plan. You've heard a lot about that this evening already. The first step in trying to figure out what you want to do, again, creating a master plan to connect the facilities that you have in your parks, but also create those opportunities for outdoor recreation. Expand city and town partnering. You heard about the comment that your director made about Fairview. Certainly you have a long history of working with other cities in the county as well. So continuing to look for those opportunities to partner more with the cities within the county to provide better. And then seeking additional funding. There's a lengthy discussion in there about what those opportunities could be from a public perspective, but also where are the opportunities to with the development, you've got your school fees. Are there development opportunities? Are there ways to seek grant funding at the state as well as the federal level to increase the amount of funding that goes into funding the plan? Talked a lot about some different things. I just want to walk through these bullets. Many of them I've likely already covered. But the purpose of the plan is to identify those activities that the Parks Department will undertake over the next 10 years. What can they be doing, and have a plan that puts them in place for when they come for budget requests in the capital improvement program. Complete construction of the Bethesda Regional Complex. We certainly don't want to forget the good things that are already going on when we develop our master plan. We want to keep sight of what we're doing as well. Identify future areas for developing the county greenway system. We've talked about that. Coordinating with the planning and zoning department on those open space requirements. You currently have in your growth plan an opportunity for land to be dedicated to meet the open space requirements. That could be an opportunity for the Parks Department and planning to work together. Site-specific master plans, you've got great facilities, but they need to be looked at from what can be done more. Are there opportunities to expand those facilities, refurbish or update those along the way? Conducting the site use study for the Ag Expo Park, I mentioned that previously, and identifying opportunities to work with the school board to increase partnership in the joint facilities. So with all that comes the hefty price tag of what's there. So keep in mind, this is a master plan document. It's a planning level exercise with estimates of cost for the recommendations that are in the plan. It's over 10 years, and it is a hefty price tag of over $500 million. But much of that includes doing some site planning and doing some work today to identify what the realistic costs are moving forward. We've identified a series of breakdowns, and within each of those breakdowns of categories are specific activities, whether it be for land acquisition, identifying a plan of how to acquire the land, and moving forward with those certain areas. So you can see on the screen what those different areas are. There's additional information that's in the master plan report that I know was handed out to you as well. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I'm happy to entertain any questions and try to answer them as well.
Have any questions? I'm seeing none.
Wally, thank you so much for that presentation. So are you moving the resolution up, Paul? Is that correct? No. Okay.
Good try. Good try.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Director Gordon. Any other reports of county offices? None. We'll move on in the agenda. There are no elections and appointments this evening. Next up is the consent agenda. The consent agenda should be in your packet. Looking for a motion for approval or any discussion. And I have a question from Commissioner Mary Smith.
Yes, I wanted to make a motion to consider one of the items on the consent agenda, 102324.
Pull it from the consent agenda and have it read with the other resolutions? Yes. I have a motion. Do I have a proper second? Second. Proper motion and proper second. Do we need a vote?
No, you don't. Any individual can pull some from consent.
Okay. It is pulled then, and we will see it in other. Under other in its regular nomenclature. With that, we will now approve the rest of the consent agenda. I will need a separate motion and second for that. Got a motion on the screen here from Commissioner Tunnicliffe, seconded by Commissioner Barb Sturgeon. If you're ready to vote and you're in favor of the consent agenda, press your yes button. Any opposed, your no. Anyone wishing to change their vote, please do so at this time. Record the vote, please, Mr. Whitby.
20 yes, 0 no.
Consent agenda is approved. For unfinished business, I have a request from Commissioner Mary Smith.
Yes, I would like to make a motion to withdraw Resolution 92346 from last month's.
That resolution is not on the agenda tonight, but you're asking to withdraw it as opposed to tabling it.
Right.
Okay, I have a proper motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
We need a vote on that or no?
This is where you say without objection, it will be withdrawn.
Without objection, that resolution is withdrawn. And I see no objections. Moving on, new business. There are no zoning hearings this evening, so we are on to appropriations.
Commissioner Hertwood had
Oh.
a question.
We don't know what resolution that was.
That was the resolution that we decided to table with regards to the town hall meetings and how they would be considered?
She's the sponsor, so she can.
It could be, this just withdraws that resolution. It could be brought back in a different form. But it would have to have been removed from the table. It was not deferred to a date specific. It was tabled in general. This would have to be refiled. Yes.
All right, without any other questions, we'll move on to appropriations, and the first resolution on our agenda is Resolution 1023-1. Resolution authorizing the Williamson County Mayor to enter into a letter of agreement with the State of Tennessee Department of Finance and Administration grant and appropriating and amending the 23-24 General Sessions budget by $32,725. Proper motion made by Commissioner Steve Smith, seconded by Commissioner Megan Guffey. Law Enforcement was 7-4-0 against. Budget Committee was 5-4-0 against. Explanation, please, Commissioner Greg Sanford.
Williamson County received a grant in the amount of $32,725 from the State of Tennessee Department of Finance and Administration. And the best part is it does not require matching funds.
Any questions? Seeing none, if you're ready to vote, all those in favor signify by pressing your yes button. Any opposed, your no. Getting some feedback. Anyone wishing to change their vote, please do so at this time. Let's see, Commissioner Webb. Oh, Commissioner Webb is absent momentarily, if you'll count him as such. Record the vote, please, Mr. Whitby.
19 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 1023-2, resolution authorizing the Williamson County Mayor to enter into a grant contract with the State of Tennessee Department of Commerce and Insurance and appropriating and amending the 23-24 Sheriff's Office budget by $40,000. Revenues to come from grant funds. Proper motion made by Commissioner Steve Smith, seconded by Commissioner Mary Smith. Law Enforcement Public Safety was 7-4-0 against. Budget Committee was 5-4-0 against. Explanation, please, Commissioner Sanford.
Williamson County Sheriff's Office received a grant from the Tennessee Department of Commerce and Insurance for the provision of funding for the Tennessee law enforcement agencies to award hiring and retention bonuses. Again, this does not require any matching funds from the county.
I have a question from Commissioner Landrum. No questions? Okay. Any other questions then? Seeing none, if you're ready to vote, if you're in favor, signify by pressing your yes button. Any opposed, your no. Anyone wishing to change their vote, please do so at this time. Record the vote, please, Mr. Whitby.
Yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 1023-3, resolution authorizing a grant contract between Williamson County, Tennessee and the State of Tennessee, Tennessee's Corrections Institute on behalf of the Williamson County Sheriff's Office and amending the 23-24 Sheriff's Office budget by $14,992, revenues to come from grant funds. Proper motion made by Commissioner Steve Smith, seconded by Commissioner Megan Guffey. Law Enforcement Public Safety was 7-4-0 against. Budget Committee was 5-4-0 against. Explanation, please, Commissioner Sanford.
Grant the county received from the Tennessee Corrections Institute, and this grant is to be used for training and equipment.
Any questions? Seeing none, if you're ready to vote, if you're in favor, signify by pressing your yes button. Opposed, your no. Anyone wishing to change their vote, please do so at this time. Record the vote, please, Mr. Whitby.
20 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 1023-4, resolution authorizing a grant contract between Williamson County, Tennessee and the Department of Health and Human Services on behalf of the Williamson County General Sessions Veterans Treatment Court and amending the 23-24 Veterans Treatment Court budget by $372,662. Revenues to come from grant funds. Proper motion made by Commissioner Megan Guffey, seconded by Commissioner Judy Herbert. Law Enforcement and Public Safety was 7-4-0 against. Budget Committee was 5-4-0 against. Explanation, please, Commissioner Sanford.
We received a grant with the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration. The grant is for substance abuse and mental health services for participants of the Williamson County General Sessions Veterans Treatment Court. And once again, there is no matching funds by the county.
Any questions? Seeing none, if you're ready to vote, all those in favor signify by pressing your yes button. Any opposed, your no. Anyone wishing to change their vote, please do so at this time. Record the vote, please, Mr. Whitby.
20 yes, 0 no.
Passes. Resolution 1023-5, resolution authorizing a grant contract between Williamson County, Tennessee and the Tennessee Department of Health and Human Services on behalf of the Williamson County General Sessions DUI Court and amending the 23-24 DUI court budget by $395,875. Revenues to come from grant funds. Proper motion made by Commissioner Lisa Hayes, seconded by Commissioner Tom Tunnicliffe. The Law Enforcement Public Safety Committee was 7-4-0 against. Budget Committee was 5-4-0 against. Explanation, please, Commissioner Sanford.
This grant's for substance abuse and mental health services for participants of the Williamson County General Sessions DUI Court. Once again, there's no matching funds by the county.
Any questions? Seeing none, if you're ready to vote, if you're in favor, signify by pressing your yes button. Any opposed, your no. Anyone wishing to change their vote, please do so at this time. Record the vote, please, Mr. Whitby.
20 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 1023-6, resolution authorizing the Williamson County Mayor to enter into a grant contract with the State of Tennessee Department of Safety and Homeland Security and appropriating and amending the 23-24 Sheriff's Office budget by $40,000. Revenues to come from grant funds. Proper motion made by Commissioner Greg Sanford, seconded by Commissioner Matt Williams. Law Enforcement was 7-4-0 against. Budget Committee was 5-4-0 against. Explanation, please, Commissioner Sanford.
Williamson County Sheriff's Office received a grant from the Tennessee Department of Safety and Homeland Security for the provision of funding for participation in the Police Traffic Services Highway Safety Projects. Once again, this grant does not require matching funds from the county.
Questions? Seeing none, if you're ready to vote, all those in favor signify by pressing your yes button. Any opposed, your no. Anyone wishing to change their vote, please do so at this time. Record the vote, please, Mr. Whitby.
20 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 1023-7, resolution accepting a $2,000 donation from Dollar General to be used by the Library for Children's Literacy Learning Kits. Proper motion made by Commissioner Paul Webb, seconded by Commissioner Matt Williams. Library Board was 8-4-0 against. Budget Committee was 5-4-0 against. Explanation, please, Commissioner Webb.
This is from the Dollar General Literacy Foundation. This does not require a match and be used toward homeschooling primarily, but other programs of the Williamson County Public Library.
Any questions? Seeing none, if you're ready to vote, if you're in favor, signify by pressing your yes button. Any opposed, your no. Anyone wishing to change their vote, please do so at this time. Record the vote, please, Mr. Whitby.
20 yes, 0 no.
Passes, and we thank Dollar General for that contribution. Resolution 1023-8, resolution appropriating and amending the 23-24 Parks and Recreation budget by $31,922.50. Revenues to come from donations. Proper motion made by Commissioner Paul Webb, seconded by Commissioner Matt Williams. Parks and Recreation Committee was 6-4-0 against. Budget Committee was 5-4-0 against. Explanation, please, Commissioner Webb.
Chair, you'll see this is a normal item where different associations using parks and facilities donate for the upkeep or fees to hire umpires, et cetera. Is fully explained in the resolution.
Any questions? Seeing none, if you're ready to vote, if you're in favor, signify by pressing your yes button. Any opposed, your no. Anyone wishing to change their vote, please do so at this time. Record the vote, please, Mr. Whitby.
20 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 1023-9, resolution authorizing the Williamson County Mayor to sign a contract amendment with the State of Tennessee Department of Transportation for the Hillsborough Road project. Proper motion made by Commissioner Matt Williams, seconded by Commissioner Greg Sanford. The Highway Commission was 4-4-0 against. Budget Committee was 5-4-0 against. Explanation, please, Commissioner Chaz Morton.
These are funds from the state to finish a long-awaited project out in what borders our district and the 8th District to straighten out Hillsborough Road and Old Hillsborough Road and add some turn lanes. It is a much, much needed project.
Any questions? Seeing none, if you're ready to vote, if you're in favor, signify by pressing your yes button. Any opposed, your no. Anyone wishing to change their vote, please do so at this time. Record the vote, please, Mr. Whitby.
20 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 1023-10, resolution appropriating and amending the 23-24 county clerk's budget by $50,000. Revenues to come from reserve account. And I believe there's a typo on this resolution under expenditures. And instead of office equipment, it should read salaries and overtime. I'm told that is correct. I've got a proper motion from Commissioner Judy Herbert, seconded by Commissioner Megan Guffey. The Budget Committee was 5-4-0 against. Explanation, please, Commissioner Chaz Morton.
These are reserve funds being used for overtime pay to help expedite title processing.
Any questions? Seeing none, if you're ready to vote, if you're in favor, signify by pressing your yes button. Any opposed, your no. Anyone wishing to change their vote, please do so at this time. Commissioner Hester. Record the vote, please, Mr. Whidbey.
20 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 102311, resolution appropriating and amending the 23-24 animal control budget by $3,000, revenues to come from donations. Proper motion made by Commissioner Barb Sturgeon, seconded by Commissioner Matt Williams. The Public Health Committee was 5-4-0 against. Budget Committee was 5-4-0 against. Explanation, please, Commissioner Morton.
This is a kind donation to Williamson County animals from Maddie's Fund, and no matching funds needed from us.
Any questions? Seeing none, if you're ready to vote, all those in favor signify by pressing your yes button. Any opposed, your no. Anyone wishing to change their vote, please do so at this time. Record the vote, please, Mr. Whidbey.
20 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 102312, resolution authorizing the issuance, sale, and payment of not to exceed $92,440,000 of general obligation public improvement and school bonds of Williamson County, Tennessee, and providing for the levy of taxes for the payment of debt service on those bonds. Now, there's a breakdown in your packet that corresponds with this resolution, and I have a proper motion made by Commissioner Megan Guffey, seconded by Commissioner Tom Tunnicliffe. The committee's votes were Municipal Solid Waste Board 4-4-0 against, Tax Study Committee 4-4-0 against, Budget Committee 4-4-1 against. Explanation, please, Commissioner Morton.
Yes, these are the first of two bond issues that we're considering tonight for projects which we have previously approved at our commission level. In addition, at the committee level, Commissioner Torres voted against these issues. He has placed a statement, I think, on each of your desks, or had one place that you understand his reasoning behind that. You're welcome to take a look at his statement of the issues because he could not be here today.
I have a question from Commissioner Barb Sturgeon.
Mind reading that? Because I couldn't find my copy.
Yes, of course.
Thank you. Thank you.
Dated October 9, County Commission Statement. Drew Torres, County Commissioner, District 8. Good evening. I apologize for not being present tonight. I am traveling for work. Nonetheless, it's important to me that you, my peers, understand why I voted no on Resolutions 1023-12 and 1023-13. This statement sets out those reasons. Like you, I have a fiduciary responsibility on behalf of my constituents and all citizens of Williamson County. To that end, I am concerned that the Williamson County School Board continues to ask this body to fund projects with debt for items that should be managed through the operational budget. Williamson County Schools receives approximately $80 million in local option sales tax revenue, a portion of which should be allocated for these line items. Furthermore, we should have the opportunity to take up these bond resolutions as individual projects rather than the aggregate. Given that we are in a volatile economic environment with rising interest rates, a fragile housing market, and overall uncertainty, it is imperative that we prioritize projects. As fiduciaries, we must be afforded this level of oversight. Finally, I am supportive of the JJJ project as it provides critical infrastructure for essential services for our citizens, but it has become clear that we are using debt to offset low property taxes. I am concerned that we are leveraging the future economic stability of Williamson County with this strategy. For these reasons, I was obligated to vote no on Resolutions 1023-12 and 1023-13. I remain hopeful that we can continue to find creative solutions so that our county can thrive economically for generations to come.
I have a question from Commissioner Greg Lawrence.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a question about the question that came up earlier tonight about the $12 million for the landfill, I guess. Part of this. Okay, so are we pulling that out? Or is somebody makes a motion? Okay.
You would have to make a motion.
Okay. Phoebe, could you explain how that would work?
Yes, sir. So the $12,500,000 is still in here. It is in this number. For the $92,440,000. The question was posed whether we could fund that through fund balance. So I just wanted to make sure that you were aware that that is a possibility. We would have to pull that out and amend the resolution and lower it by the 12.5 if you want.
See a problem with the fund balance coming up later if we do this?
With everything, I mean, it's a trade-off. You use the money now, you don't have it later for something else. Do we have sufficient funds in fund balance? Yes, sir, we do. Is that taking away or not being able to foresee what comes in the next 10 months? But we do have at this time sufficient funds.
I would like to make a motion that we pull the 12.5 out of this resolution.
I have a proper motion. Do I hear a second? Second comes from Commissioner Mary Smith. Then any questions on the resolution as amended, or do I vote?
On the amendment.
On the amendment, yes. Any questions on the amendment before we vote? Looks like I have a question from Commissioner Steve Smith.
Thank you, Phoebe. What is the current total in the fund balance that we would be pulling the 12.5 from? Or current projected for this month?
Projected for September, end of September, as I said, we are balancing. Current fund balance is $73,407,000, a little over. So if we pull the 12.5 from this number, it will drop fund balance to $60,907,000.
Question from Commissioner Barb Sturgeon.
I'm just trying to recall the discussion in our budget committee, and it was land we were buying to provide dirt for the landfill. It was like 538 acres. I didn't really see the cost analysis of what it would cost us to pay for that dirt truck by truck versus buying this land for $12.5 million.
There is a resolution a little later that's actually, I think, addresses that 13 million breakdown. Let me pull that just in case. So that is addressed in Resolution 102319. It doesn't look like we have the breakdown. I can see, I have a note on that. Let me see. So the estimate for the off-site purchase and hauling of the dirt is approximately $13.3 million, and the land is $13.4 million. So that is what we are estimating. Yes, ma'am. So
Stop not to buy it at all.
good. This land, as you said, we are thinking about using it for dirt, but that is not the only reason. I mean, this is land the county could use in future years for something else. So we could take the dirt for our current needs and save us the 13.3 that we are going to have to purchase and haul in from somewhere else. And then we would, of course, have that land as an asset on our books for future use.
Excavated, let's put it that way.
That would be a question that may need Mac to help with on that whole process of how the dirt and what we use and what we don't use. And we won't, I don't think, completely take it bare, so. Yes. Thank you.
Question again from Commissioner Steve Smith. Okay. Question from Commissioner Matt Williams.
Potentially might be a question for Jeff, but the way I read this resolution is not to exceed a certain amount. If it's left in there, does that provide flexibility to determine which funding we want to go pursue, whether it be through bonds or through other funding?
As I heard the amendment, it would ask to increase the authorization by $12,500,000, which would leave you with a not to exceed of $79,940,000 by my calculations, and it would flow throughout the resolution.
Correct, but the question is if we do not amend the amount, does it provide, are we obligated to issue the bonds to fund that, or could we choose to fund it a different way?
You could choose to fund it a different way. This is a not to exceed authorization.
Correct, thank you.
Any other questions on the amendment? Question from Commissioner Mary Smith.
I'm not sure if I can ask this question, because if we amend it, we're going to just change the amount that we actually request, right? So we're just changing the exceeded amount? Is that correct?
We'll be voting on that, yes.
Okay, so my question is around, I guess, because that's also included in the Page High School funding. Is there not enough money in the educational impact fee to fund that phase through that funding source versus going out to bonds?
There is money sufficient in the education impact fee. However, if you'll recall, this is the second part of this intent for Page High School. We went through and funded the first part of Page last fiscal year through bond issue, and we did go through that determination, evaluating whether this could be considered as new growth or just a rebuild and reconstruct, and we did determine at that point that it was not eligible for education impact fee. So this would go along those same lines of this project.
Determines, like, I guess, those guidelines, because, I mean, obviously, we're going from 1,500 students to 2,000 students with this build. I'm not sure how that doesn't qualify for new growth.
We went back and forth, provided information from the school department about the project itself, the growth. There is a case that we could argue, but it is not clear-cut. And with those education impact fees, we have always tried to maintain a very clear-cut use of those funds so that there was no way that anyone could come back later and dispute our use.
Is it worth trying to pursue that again? Just because I know that Jason has said they're not expecting any new schools coming out of this year, so I'm not sure what else we're going to use those educational impact fees for. But it seems like it might be worth entertaining that again, because it is the growth. I mean, it's 500 more student stations at that school.
Would not have anything else along the lines included in this bond issue for those education impact funds. So we would not go against, that I foresee anything coming else in front of the schools to use these funds this year. However, please keep in mind, next year, they are planning on coming to about 3 schools. So that money could just maintain in that education impact fund account where we are accumulating and earning about 5% interest. So those funds are not being used today for this particular project. However, the growth that we could build upon those funds could be substantial in order to pay for a school next year. And we could avoid a higher interest rate next year on a bond issue since they are projected to go up.
The last question I had is, like, I know our debt service for this year, when we make our principal payments this year, what is the total amount of principal payments we're expected to make?
So we are paying $32.1 million out of general debt and $10.3 million out of rural debt. So a total of be 42 total, but part of that is the hospital. So if you take that out, it's about $36 million.
Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, oftentimes when questions are asked to me or Phoebe, we tell you what we can do. What you need to also understand is the question that was brought up over here is what does that do to us, not only at the during the budget time this year, but really 3 and 4 years down the road. Many of those funds that we have, nobody likes debt, but we're in a position and we don't want to spend all our money. We'll do what you want to do, but I'd like to ask Sam Cruz, if it's okay with you, so that you hear both of these stories that you can put together and not just hear the conversation that's going in tonight. Sam?
Hello. I guess I'd say a couple things. One, for years now, the commission is always trying to find the right balance between a lower tax rate and an appropriate debt level. And that's going to continue. It's like a seesaw. And, different commissions, different commissioners may have different opinions of what that balance is. But as we go through this exercise of planning, that's what your decision is what is the right balance. Now, the question, I think the mayor just said it very appropriately, that Phoebe said, well, what can we do? We can definitely do this. But when I look at the projections of what is going to be needed in the county over the next 5 years, it is a very substantial capital plan between the schools, and these plans all change, but I mean, I've seen capital plans of, $600-700 million, the Triple J, $300 million, just regular county stuff, several hundred million. So when you look down the road, your problem is not going to be that we have too much money. The problem is going to be that you're going to need more money. In my opinion, the reserves they're serving a good purpose at the moment. If you use, as I think Phoebe made the comment, that you're earning over 5% on this money. So we'll take the $12.5 million. It's sitting there, if it's in the state local government investment pool, it's earning 5.33%. The bonds are going to cost you, it changes daily, but 4.25% and rising. So you're taking money earning 5.30 to avoid debt, that's going to cost you 4.25 to 4.5. So that's still maybe what you want to do. That's fine, but I am pointing out that leaving it where it is gives you options in the future. Because again, next year is the year I feel like a lot is coming. I feel like next year with schools that have been delayed are probably coming, and then the Triple J is probably coming. So, there is at least that as an alternative view is, well, maybe we, keep this, the powder dry and put it into a sort of a master plan as we figure out the best way to finance all the stuff that's coming. So, 'cause obviously once you use it, it's gone. If you keep it, you can use it anytime you want. And then again, if you were to say to me, well, no, I want to use fund balance to offset the debt. There's a whole other question of, well, do you want to use it to offset this land purchase, or do you want to pay off some existing debt, that's amortizing quicker? So we really haven't gone through that exercise either of, well, which is better? Is it better to pay off some existing debt or better to avoid this new debt? And again, I'm not positive. There may be a mathematical, this is the best thing, but, there's always more considerations. So I don't know for sure what you'll think the right answer is, but I know we haven't really gone through an exercise of deciding either. So.
Question from Commissioner Sanford.
I don't know who it's to be directed to. Two questions. A, who's in charge of lumping all these categories together on a resolution like this that's brought forth tonight? Phoebe?
So are you referring to all the different projects under the capital? The 24 million, is that what you're referring to?
I'd like the building improvements, the construction, the HVAC, major maintenance, obviously we don't know what that is, school safety and security, park field LED lighting, fire apparatus. Who's in charge of lumping all that together to put forth this resolution?
So the resolution was pulled based on, one, on the school size, the intent. So on the schools, they do an intent to fund for every project. So the safety and security was a resolution that was approved on May 23rd, or Resolution May was 523-2. That was what you would approve for that. So when we do the bond, we pull everything that has already previously had an intent to fund, because now it's time to actually take that action and fund those intents. Anything that's listed under the county general solid waste projects that are just general county projects, those are the projects that were included in that capital fund plan. If you'll remember, back in June, it went through the committee. These are the capital projects that were approved. And then in July, I came back and said, okay, now of these that have been approved, we're going to fund X number out of fund balance. And we did a resolution for those. And we pulled another resolution July, I think another one actually last month, for those projects out of that list that we were going to pull from privilege tax. And this is the remaining of those projects. You're welcome.
Any other questions on the amendment?
Chairman, I had one more question. If this, even math, $100 million gets approved, what would the total county debt be?
So as is, without the amendment, we would be looking at total debt projected, that is no other debt other than anything, just paying off the principal as scheduled. With this issue, it would be $1,123,269,601. Net direct, of course, that includes the hospital, so actually net direct is $931 million.
Reminder, we need to keep these questions directed to the amendment. We'll have another opportunity to speak to the resolution as a whole once we vote on the amendment. With that in mind, do you have a question, Commissioner Hester, on the amendment? Commissioner Webb on the amendment.
On the amendment, what Sam told us is a good point. We're making more money on interest than we would have to pay. 5.3 versus 4.25 is your estimates. Okay. Well, that the opportunity there is for us to keep money in that rainy day fund, because the unknown could happen overnight. What happened in Israel Saturday? No one was expecting a war. We've had a tornado come through here. Somebody's got to pay for that. We had a flood in 2010. The unknown is why we keep a fund balance rainy day fund. You take $12.5 million out of that, we may not be able to fund the unknown that we don't know about today. So Sam makes a very good point that I think we ought to consider on this. And then related to that $12.5 million, the opportunity cost, if we don't fund it, then we're going to pay a lot more than $12.5 million to get dirt on our county-owned landfill. So we need to resolve this. And so I think on the $12.5 million, Sam makes a very good point. We need to keep some money in reserve for that unknown. Thank you.
Any other questions on the amendment? Question from Commissioner Barb Sturgeon.
If we want to keep some in reserve, then why 12.5 million? Why don't we just make it an extra 100 million and keep that in reserve? I just can't get in line with that kind of thinking. And I'm inclined to vote to take the money out because I'm not sure we need to buy extra dirt at this point in time. I just feel like our debt is going way up, and I would really like to minimize a tax increase. And can't have everything, and I can give up the dirt myself. That's my opinion. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments on the amendment? Has the amendment been loaded? Then if you're ready to vote, we're voting on the amendment that would be reducing this resolution by $12.5 million for a total, I believe, of $79,940,000. If you are ready to vote, we already have a motion in the second on the amendment. So if everybody is ready to vote and there are no further questions, if you're in favor of the resolution as amended.
No, just in favor of the amendment to reduce.
If you're in favor of the amendment to reduce this resolution, I need to call up. We already have a motion.
We
in a
already
second.
have a motion
we
and
already
a
had a
second.
Yeah.
We did it on the systems thing.
So which takes precedence, the one on the system or the verbal one?
I guess that one does. It's the
Okay.
written record.
Recognizing that the motion was verbally made originally by Greg Lawrence and seconded by Commissioner Mary Smith, we now also have a motion from Lisa Hayes and Pete Stresser. With all those motions, are we ready to vote? Again, this vote would be to reduce the resolution by $12.5 million. If you're in favor of doing that, press your yes button. If you're opposed, your no. Anyone wishing to change their vote, please do so at this time. Record the vote, please, Mr. Whitby.
8 yes, 12 no.
Fails. We're now back to the resolution as stated originally. Any questions on the original resolution? I see none. If we're ready to vote,
We do have some.
is there a question from Matt Williams? Okay. I do have a question from Commissioner Matt Williams.
I can see where this is going. We always sensationalize a static. Phoebe or Sam, what I care more about is what's our debt to income or revenue to debt ratio that we manage in regards to issuing this debt, and what does that potentially do to that? Historically, we've always looked at it from 20-year average to what it currently is. That's what is actually more relevant to this discussion.
I don't have the percentage right with me, but I can give you the right narrative, which is, the other side of the debt picture is your tax base. And your tax base is like over $64 billion now and growing like a couple $1 billion per year. So if you look at your, and there's a lot of ways you can look at these things, and each one is fair in its own rights. But if you look at debt as a percentage of your tax base, it's near the lowest it's been in 20, 25 years. And that's not because your debt's going down, it's because your tax base has been going up faster than your existing debt. I have a feeling that if you looked at your debt service, like as a percentage of the budget compared to 20 years ago, it's probably comparable. So it's difficult because all numbers in Williamson County are getting big. I mean, they're very, whether it's the tax base or the debt. I think with the rate, the AAA rating, I think that your growing debt is not a positive for the AAA rating. It goes back to the reserves. The reserves and liquidity is a positive. And I'll just throw out, just kind of as a disclaimer, one thing that the rating agency will say, which I don't really like, is they've started also looking at debt as a percentage of your revenue. And the problem with their methodology, which they will admit, so you may see this in a report someday, is they count all of your debt, but they consider the school system and the hospital as non-government revenue. So they strip out the revenue of the school system and they strip out the revenue of the hospital, and then they say, oh, well, that's a lot of debt for the rest of the revenue. It's an irrational methodology, and luckily they acknowledge that when they give us the rating. But you might see a quote someday that, well, the debt's really high relative to revenue. That's why they're saying that, because they're using their own definition of revenue. So I don't know if that answers your question, but on the traditional metrics we've looked at, debt as a percentage of tax base is not a problem, but that presumes that, you're willing to use the tax base to support debt.
Thank you.
Recognizing that Commissioner Lawrence has already spoken to the resolution, I'll hold your place in queue and go to Commissioner Betsy Hester.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question is, how will us borrowing this money affect our AAA bond rating? Will it cause us to have to re-examine the AAA bond rating? Thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
Everything that you're borrowing now has been telegraphed to the rating agencies for several years. So there's no surprises. And this level of debt will not affect the rating. I mean, I think we do have to telegraph to the rating agency what's coming down the road. And I think when they see that, it's kind of like a car driving a little bit faster, meaning the driver has to be a little more careful. So they will want to be closely monitoring how you plan to handle the borrowing plans that we're suggesting might be coming down the road. So that's the biggest story about your AAA rating is what's coming and how it's going to be funded and how it's going to be handled. But this particular bond issue should not have any bearing on that.
Questions, if you want to stay at the podium, they may be directed towards you, Sam. Commissioner Greg Lawrence.
Being here tonight, I just wanted to point out something on page 3 on this resolution. You can see there, this is not really a $92 million decision. It's a $139 million decision when you look at it over 20 years. Like when you take out a mortgage on your house and mortgage it over 30 years, you're not really paying $600,000, whatever the list price is. You're paying a lot more than that. But as I recall, Sam, were we not paying like a 1.5% interest rate just a few years ago? These interest rates have gone up substantially, correct?
I think around in 2021, you were in the like 1.6 range.
Yeah.
But even back in 2019, it was in the 2s. And you know, that's one of the things, I mean, for the commissioners who've been around a while since we did the planning before, we were using 4% for the last 5 or 6 years as our future forecast. And we've been lucky that almost all of your borrowings have been in the 1s and 2s or low 3s. We've now crossed the line where 4% isn't a conservative assumption anymore. So
I just want to point out our cost of borrowing has gone up 4 times what it was a few years ago. And so it's getting a lot more expensive to borrow this money than it used to. And one question I have for Phoebe is, Phoebe, how quickly is our reserve fund going up? I mean, in the next 5 months, is it not true that we will increase that significantly with the property taxes that will be due over the next 5 months?
We receive the majority of our property tax in the months of December and February. So we have not seen those increases as of yet, but yes, over the next 4 months, we should.
Do you have any projected number, what you think it might be by the 1st of February or the end of February? You don't? Okay. But it'll be substantially higher than it is today, correct? Okay. All right. Thank you.
Similar situation, Commissioner Mary Smith's already spoken, so I'll hold her place in queue and go to Commissioner Christopher Richards.
Thank you. Quick question. I've heard figures breaking down the debt per household here in Williamson County as high as $14,000 per household. Would you be able to run numbers like that? I'm assuming you don't have them available right now.
Could take a look, but yes, I don't have those numbers right now, but we can work on those, yes.
Thank you.
Commissioner Mary Smith.
About 14,000 for a family of 4, based on the current projections. I think the thing that kind of gets to me, the thing that I think about is that when we look at the amount of debt that we take on, I'm not against debt, but every time we take out future debt, that also means more money we have to put in debt service funding, which means less money we can pay the county workers that we rely on. So while I'm all for, you know, the JJJ project and for supporting the folks that work here, I do think that, you know, I would like to not hear, you know, from our teachers that they qualify for, you know, Habitat for Humanity homes. That's the kind of stuff that I think about. And when I think about us having conversations around tax increases, that impacts my family and most families directly if you have younger children, is my kids are getting to the point where they can't afford to live in Williamson County. So both of my children that are currently looking for houses are having to move outside the county to do that. And raising property taxes, while most of us say we can afford it, there is a downward trickle to the people that we rely on, our teachers, our law enforcement, who live and who would like to live and work in this county that currently don't have the ability to do so. So I'm looking at it from a standpoint of I would like to be able to avoid a tax increase or to minimize the amount of tax increase that we'll have to discuss.
Any other questions on the resolution? Seeing none, if we're ready to vote, all those in favor signify by pressing your yes button. Any opposed, your no. Anyone wishing to change their vote, please do so at this time. Record the vote, please, Mr. Whitby.
14 yes, 5 no, 1 abstain.
Resolution passes. Resolution 102313, resolution authorizing the issuance, sale, and payment of not to exceed $14,520,000 of county district school bonds of Williamson County, Tennessee, and providing for the levy of taxes for the payment of debt services on those bonds. I'm looking for a motion. Proper motion made by Commissioner Megan Guffey, seconded by Commissioner Steve Smith. Tax Study Committee was 4-4-0 against. Budget Committee was 4-4-1 against. Explanation, please, Commissioner Morton.
This is the second of the bond resolutions. This one is for schools, for projects that we've previously approved.
Any questions? Seeing none, if you're ready to vote, all those in favor signify by pressing your yes button. Any opposed, your no. Anyone wishing to change their vote, please do so at this time. Record the vote, please, Mr. Whitby.
16 yes, 3 no, 1 abstain.
Resolution passes. Late filed Resolution 102327, resolution authorizing a grant contract between Williamson County, Tennessee and the State of Tennessee, Tennessee Department of Health and Human Services on behalf of the Williamson County General Sessions DUI Court, and amending the 23-24 DUI court budget by $142,000. Revenues to come from grant funds. Proper motion made by Commissioner Steve Smith, seconded by Commissioner Judy Herbert. The Budget Committee was 5-4-0 against. Explanation, please, Commissioner Sanford.
Grants for substance abuse and mental health treatment services for participants of the Williamson County General Sessions DUI Court, and no matching funds are required. Also, these funds are remaining from a previous grant received by the DUI Court.
Any questions? Seeing none, if you're ready to vote, if you're in favor, signify by pressing your yes button. Opposed, your no. Anyone wishing to change their vote, please do so at this time. Commissioner Williams. Record the vote, please, Mr. Whitby.
20 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Moving on to other, Resolution 102314, resolution accepting a donation of medical supplies from DaVita Healthcare on behalf of Williamson County Animal Control. Proper motion made by Commissioner Megan Guffey, seconded by Commissioner Barb Sturgeon. Public Health Committee was 5-4-0 against. Budget Committee was 5-4-0 against. Explanation, please, Commissioner Chas Morton.
This is a donation from DaVita for, I think, PPE equipment.
Any questions? Seeing none, if you're ready to vote, if you're in favor, signify by pressing your yes button. Opposed, your no. Anyone wishing to change their vote, please do so at this time. Record the vote, please, Mr. Whitby.
20 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 102315, resolution authorizing the Williamson County Mayor to enter into an interlocal agreement with the Arrington Volunteer Fire Department, Williamson Rescue Squad, and Williamson Fire Rescue concerning reimbursement for the purchase of software, license, and related subscription fees. Proper motion made by Commissioner Greg Sanford, seconded by Commissioner Judy Herbert. Law Enforcement Committee was 7-4-0 against. Budget Committee was 5-4-0 against. Explanation, please, Commissioner Sanford.
Resolution is to allow the volunteer departments to purchase Central Square field operations licenses. It's for the county CAD system. And the fire departments will agree to pay the bill when it comes due.
Any questions? Seeing none, if you're ready to vote, if you're in favor, signify by pressing your yes button. Any opposed, your no. Anyone wishing to change their vote, please do so at this time. Record the vote, please, Mr. Whitby.
20 yes, 0 no.
Passes. Resolution 102316, resolution authorizing the Williamson County Mayor to execute a lease agreement with Starting Point Ministries for office space in the County Community Services Building. Proper motion made by Commissioner Greg Sanford, seconded by Commissioner Tom Tunnicliffe. The Property Committee was 5-4-0 against. Budget Committee was 5-4-0 against. Explanation, please, Commissioner Morton.
This is just a new lease over at the Community Services Building for Starting Point Ministries.
Any questions? Seeing none, if you're ready to vote, if you're in favor, signify by pressing your yes button. Any opposed, your no. Anyone wishing to change their vote, please do so at this time. Record the vote, please, Mr. Whitby.
20 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 102317, resolution authorizing the Williamson County Mayor to enter into a memorandum of understanding with the Public Building Authority of Williamson County, Tennessee. Proper motion made by Commissioner Lisa Hayes, seconded by Commissioner Greg Sanford. Property Committee was 6-4-0 against. Budget Committee was 5-4-0 against. Explanation, please, Commissioner Morton.
Just allow the county mayor to use the PBA to use some of the streamlined processes they can use to help manage the Bethesda Park project.
Any questions? Seeing none, if you're ready to vote, all those in favor signify by pressing your yes button. Any opposed, your no. Anyone wishing to change their vote, please do so at this time. Record the vote, please, Mr. Whitby.
20 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 102318, resolution accepting a conditional donation of real property located at 5441 Carters Creek Pike, Williamson County, Tennessee, from the Burwood High School trustees. Proper motion made by Commissioner Tunnicliffe, seconded by Commissioner Sturgeon. Property Committee was 6-4-0 against. Parks and Rec Committee was 5-4-0 against. Budget Committee was 5-4-0 against. Explanation, please, Commissioner Morton.
This is just to accept the old Burwood High School. I believe Parks and Rec already has some programming planned for it, and there's some existing programming going on, so it should be a good project for us.
Any questions? Seeing none, if you're ready to vote, if you're in favor, signify by pressing your yes button. Any opposed, your no. Anyone wishing to change their vote, please do so at this time. Commissioner Guffey, there we go. Record the vote, please, Mr. Whitby.
20 yes, 0 no.
Passes. Resolution 102319, resolution authorizing the Williamson County Mayor to execute an agreement to purchase real property located at Pewitt Road, Franklin, Tennessee. Proper motion made by Commissioner Greg Sanford, seconded by Commissioner Steve Smith. Property Committee was 6-4-0 against. Budget Committee was 5-4-0 against. Explanation, please, Commissioner Morton.
This is the tie-in of the property that we were just discussing with regard to the bond issue, 538 acres adjacent to our existing landfill. Proposed plan is to use the topsoil from that to allow our existing landfill to stretch out, I believe, 50 years, 40 or 50. Max gave me the nod, 40, 50 years, for us to be able to use our landfill.
Question from Commissioner Richards.
Mr. Chairman, this was the resolution that got updated. I was the one no vote on the Property Committee. I'm like, you had read it that there was 0 no votes on the Property Committee, I think.
I did, that's what I have.
I just wanted to have the record stand. I also just wanted to say, it's my understanding that we've got about 16 years worth of dirt at the dump. I'm not sure why we're spending this amount of money when we could be spending it elsewhere. It just seems like a waste of money. That's it.
On property, or the Property Committee is where you
Property.
voted no?
Yeah.
Noted that correction.
That's the one Jeff sent out after the packets went out.
So it'd be 5-4-1 against. So note that correction. The Property Committee was 5-4-1 against. And we have a question from Commissioner Paul Webb.
Because this issue came up at the Budget Committee, has come up tonight, Mr. Chair, I took the liberty of just saying that the bond issue we approved, $12.5 million at 4.75%. Let's add 0.5%. The principal and interest would run $19,400,000 over the 20-year life of buying this property. And so when you make a business decision, you have a lost opportunity cost. And so if we don't buy the land, then we're going to have to buy the dirt. It's going to be required to buy the dirt. That number you heard, the pass-through, is based on a number of $18.50 a cubic yard. I just bought some dirt this last week. It cost me $50 a cubic yard. But because that's what the professionals came out and estimated, it cost you $18.50 a cubic yard, I just took 2% interest. Federal Reserve wants to get us to 2%. So I took 2% interest. You know, in 2059, that $18.50 becomes $38.11. We've got to buy dirt because we own a landfill. And here's the thing, we buy the dirt, and then at the end of the project, we have the land. And that land could be a horse trail, it could be school property, it could be whatever, but we have the land. And so I look at this from a business decision. This is an opportunity cost. And interest is part of doing business, much like labor and supplies, rent, whatever. And at the price that this individual wants to sell us to, and by the way, it's like this. Those who've been to the landfill know, it adjoins the property. So the haul is just take a dump truck over there, load it up, and drive it across the property line. This, to me, whether we were paying cash or we were bonding it, is a good thing, a good investment, because we own the landfill. We've got to have dirt. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Sturgeon?
Yeah, my question was, what is the land good for after you've removed all the dirt?
That question directed to anyone in particular?
Whoever can answer it. I mean, Mac, maybe? Or maybe Parks and Rec would know what to do with it after all the dirt is gone. I don't know.
Landfill operation is an ongoing construction site. Until the landfill is full and closed, it will always be considered nothing more than a construction site. You bring it in materials, you're covering up and using the dirt to cover it. We currently have roughly 16 acres of airspace that's not filled with trash. We did some operational changes last year. That 16 acres last year was going to give us about 12 to 13 years. We did some compaction increases. Now we're up to 13 to 16 years with that current. This dirt would help us close. We may, not sure, may have enough dirt on site to close what we have and that 16 years. And if that's it, then we're done. We don't have enough dirt to construct more on site. So that's the reason we would need something next door. The only dirt that the county currently owns today, close, is the Springs property and the bicycle park. And I would not want to run dump trucks hauling loads of dirt, and you're looking at probably 40 or 50 loads a day running those little narrow highways, when you can take an off-road dump truck and go right across the field. So what we would do with that many acres is determine, we've got a study coming up that we're going to core drill and see where the dirt is, what quantity of dirt is there, compared on how much we need. Digging up that whole piece of property is never in our plan. We should not need that amount of dirt. What we would do is dig strategic locations. As we're digging and hauling it to make the landfill out of it, we're also creating the next use for that piece of property. To where when they get ready to do whatever, if they've got to go in there and level it out, then we've already leveled it to whatever level they need. That help answer what you're asking?
I'm just trying to understand what it's fit for after you've taken the dirt off and taken it to the dump. But maybe we don't know. I don't know if there's an answer to that question, but I would hate to take all the dirt off and then have it be like useless.
Right, and it wouldn't be. What you do is somebody mentioned topsoil. Topsoil is what we would do when we're finished. We cover it up to grow grass on it. While we're actually growing the landfill, that's when we're covering it up with the subsoil dirt. So you would dig the subsoil down, save the topsoil, and put that back on it later, and then it's back into a flatter portion of land than what you would currently look at today.
So you're saying it's hilly right now? Okay.
There's a little over 100-foot elevation change in 300 feet in one spot on that landfill, on that piece of property. That's good goat country.
The chair will recognize Gordon Hampton.
Just to go along, Commissioner, with what Mac is saying, at some point in time, the landfill is going to be used to its full extent. At that particular time, and there's, 400 acres there, Mac? The county, at that time, should have 900 acres, side by side. He's not going to destroy it. It's not like strip mining a mountaintop to take the coal off of it. When they're taking the trees down to get the dirt, there's a process where that land is still going to have grass growing on it, have trees growing on it. So at some point in time, 40, 50 years from now, the residents of Williamson County are now going to have a 900-acre green space in this county that will be worth a tremendous amount of money, and for quality of life issues and just as a strong asset. 900 acres is a considerable green space, and so it will be used, I would think, at some point in time for a park in the future.
Commissioner Lawrence.
Mac, if you could come back up, if I could ask the question a little bit differently. So to make sure I understand, did you say that we have 16 years left on the landfill? if we don't do anything, we have 16 years?
Permitted airspace, you have to get a permit, and you fill within your permit.
Okay.
So what we have permitted today is currently 16 acres that we've got liner on 5 of it. So it won't be long, we'll start putting some trash on there. But that 16 acres at current volume coming in and current compaction rate should last us 15 to 16 years. We've got a heavier piece of equipment that we've been using this year, so we're hoping to get a better compaction rate, which may extend that. Then once that area is completed, or before it gets completed, we've got the other area that sells, because what we're talking about is area sales 1 through 4. That's what we'd be finishing up. We're working on part of 3 and then the rest of 4. So then you have sale 5, 6, and 7. We can go back and get a permit to put C&D waste on top of the old garbage. And then there's an area on the other side of the landfill between 2 valleys that we've created that would be a future expansion that I'd rather not have to go to.
Okay, so if we add this piece of property, it will help us extend it, the useful life of the landfill by how many years?
It'd be really near 50 years by the time we get what we have currently and what we can currently permit, stand on top of what we have. Then we could actually go for further, but I'm really hoping by 50 years from now, we figured out something else to do with it instead of bury it.
Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Sanford?
I have zero clue what y'all do over there. I want to come out there one day and take a tour to help better understand what y'all do. I think the land, it's a decent deal. It's not a steal, but it's a decent deal in my opinion. Has your department ever thought about becoming a utility of sorts and charging people to utilize this service? That way it's self-sustaining and can pay for itself. You know, you take the residents in the cities that I'm sure utilize your services. I don't know. I'd be curious to know what that model looks like if there's ever been one ran to see what that would look like.
Telling the mayor, if you wanted it to be paid for now, what our budget this year, what we have in the budget and the capital and everything else is close to $20 million. You have roughly 270,000 residents within Williamson County. So if the residents want to pay for it, it'd be $74.08 per year per resident.
Send them a bill.
That include what? Yes, every resident.
Commissioner Richards?
Kind of touching upon what you had said, that we don't really know how we're going to be disposing of dirt 50 years from now. So let's say 10 years from now they come up with some miraculous incinerator and we bought this land for nothing. The logic on this is so flawed. Why aren't we stocking up on copier paper for the copy machines? Because we know copy machines aren't going to be around for 50 years. I don't know why we're doing this, especially going into debt to do it, which costs us even more. We figure out in 10 years that will give you about 6 years extra lead time what we can do then. In the meanwhile, we take this $13.5 million, pay our law enforcement better, put it towards the jail, pay our teachers better. It's as simple as that.
Quite that simple.
It is. It is that simple.
Okay.
Any other questions? Commissioner Mary Smith?
Question on this particular piece of land, because I know this has kind of come up before. Is there a push to do this like right now? Because I know you said we've got like 16 years probably worth of dirt there. I think Commissioner Sanford, it's a good deal, not a great deal on the property. Is there some push right now that we don't know about to make this purchase happen in the next 6 months versus possibly waiting a year, see where our fund balance is at the end of the year?
I first came here, the 21st of this month will be 2 years that I've been here. I would have told you there's no possibility of buying that piece of land. And then the owner came to me and said, I want to develop this land, but I don't have right of way to get there. I need you to help me get right of way. So we started that discussion and trying to get him where he needed to be, at the same point not wanting him to develop that land. So we sat down with the mayor, with a meeting with the mayor and this gentleman, and before they started, I said, I want y'all to look at one thing before you start going further. Look at the possibility of us just buying this land outright, because what he was wanting to do is put residential homes on it. And that's the worst thing that could be next door to a landfill. The other issue has been going on for quite some time. We do some quarterly monitoring for groundwater contamination and methane gas. There's 2 little springs right across the fence line on that piece of property that our landfill is impacting. Now, when you do the sampling on it, if that water was drinkable to start with, it's still drinkable, but it's still detectable. So the reason where I went back with him was, if we're going to do this and you get some access coming from the current property that we have, we need to trade 1 acre for 4 acres or something like that so we can own that section of land. So that's where the discussions all started. He wants to sell. He's ready to sell. And if we don't get it, somebody else will.
The last question I had is, as I know you and I kind of discussed this, is that right now, we don't collect any solid waste money from the city of Franklin and Spring Hill, right, in the county. There's nothing that comes to us, but yet they bring their trash to our landfill, correct? I guess back to what Commissioner Sanford was saying, is like, is there a way for you to be able to pay for the things you need, the dirt you need, whether it's next door or wherever, if we could actually recoup some of that usage from these municipalities that aren't paying anything right now?
At some point, solid waste will become a utility. You pay for your water, you pay for your electricity, you pay for your cable bill, you pay for whatever it is you have coming to your home. Solid waste collection and disposal at some point will become a utility.
Follow up?
I don't know, you have the dollar amounts that, right now, that it's costing us without collecting any money from them? Like what we could be making?
I don't have them with me. We report what goes through our transfer station on a quarterly basis to TDEC. So as we're reporting that, I also keep up with the C&D waste that comes in, and our brush that comes in, and our metal that comes in. And I shared this with our drivers this week. Of the class 1 waste, which is your household garbage that normally would be generated from your kitchen, almost 70% of what we deal with in our transfer station, we haul out of our convenience centers and our schools. About 1/4 of what we haul out of convenience centers is construction demolition. The rest of it comes in from either residents or private companies generated trash here locally. And then brush is the killer. It costs, we're charging $40 a ton to take in brush. Residents get the first 5 tons for nothing. And believe it or not, they won't tell you the truth. They'll tell you it's coming from home when they're actually running a business, but once they get done with their 5 tons, then they have to pay anyway. But there's 430,000 tons came in the first 3 quarters, most of which was either us or supposedly residential. So we're losing our money on that. So we'll have to have a discussion on how we're going to fix it. I've already figured it out, but that's not for tonight.
Commissioner Hayes.
Mac, I really appreciate the tour you took me on the other day. It was quite enlightening. And I appreciate all the knowledge and experience you bring to us, especially since, you came from Rutherford and a full career. Is there any thoughts, and I didn't even think to ask you this the other day, of do we have the ability to buy maybe half of the property to save a little money? I mean, it is a lot of money for dirt, but I also realize I have purchased dirt, so I do understand the cost of dirt. So is there any thoughts of maybe we could purchase less property to make this a little lower of a number?
He would rather sell it all because, and we've had that discussion, and I understand his side of it, and I agree with it. Not very many people want to buy a property next door to a landfill. Not very many people. And he actually bought and he's sold part of it now, but it was 13 tracts of land that started on one side of the landfill, wrapped all the way around behind it, and ends on Boy Scout Road. He sold everything except for the 538 acres next door to us and the 1,200 that he's kept for a yard. So he's ready to sell the rest of it. So if we bought the half next to us, then you would have the other half would be between what we bought and 840.
Yeah, and I don't think a lot of people realize that 840 is on the other side of that property, so it's not like it's got some beautiful view. It is gullies, and I live down the street, so I can appreciate the property landscape and
A lot of wildlife on it.
a lot of rattlesnakes. Thank you.
Commissioner Smith.
Mr. Chairman, Mac,
Yes, sir.
enlighten me. You get residential household trash from the convenience centers outside the cities. And then you get construction waste, and then you also get brush. Is that the three components of what you bury out there?
Bury the brush. We grind the wood waste and currently are giving it away, but we don't bury it. And we also use a large part of what we grind as erosion control. When we have bare ground, we're required to try to grow grass on it. We can put mulch on it, and that keeps it from washing and doing that. And then the garbage, the household garbage, gets shipped out. It goes through our transfer station and leaves, goes to Camden, Tennessee.
So that's what I was getting at, is really the only thing we take in that, other than some of the brush that gets buried, but some of it gets used for our purposes. The only thing that we take in basically is construction waste.
Right. In 2021, we took in 84,000 tons of construction waste that got buried in our landfill. We were either going to have to buy more equipment, run longer hours, and hire more people, or we were going to have to reduce the volume. So the big, large haulers that were bringing trash in, we limited them to 300 tons a month. After you hit 300 tons, you cannot come for the rest of the month. And we went from $50 a ton to $75. Our intent was to slow it down. So, and then we did the extra compassion in 2022. So we had 50,000 tons that we buried in 2022. So we reduced it by, a little over 30,000.
So in fact, you do charge fees for large haulers bringing construction waste.
Mayor Carr asked me to come over and visit with him the other day because they're having some issues and they're looking at doing some stuff. And he asked me, he said, explain to me how this works. I said, well, garbage is a little bit different. We have a contract with Waste Management. So we have a transfer station that we own. The transfer station. It is our equipment and our manpower and labor taking the garbage from the floor of the transfer station, putting it into a MBI tractor trailer truck. They hook to that trailer. We put the tarp on it. They hook to that trailer, and it's a combined deal between MBI and the landfill. They charge us a little less than $50 a ton once they get it at their landfill. But their garbage trucks come to our landfill hauling trash generated here and pay us $75 a ton for it. He said, that doesn't sound like good math. I said, well, it costs money to run our operation to load the truck. So it doesn't just cost the near $50 a ton. You've got the loading cost and the equipment cost and everything else. So we're covering our costs by doing that. But they're paying extra. And the mayor asked, why would they do that? They don't have to truck it an hour and a half the rest of the way.
Commissioner Graves?
So just because it was brought up, just to clarify, residents in the city of Spring Hill actually do pay for trash, just not the Williamson County. We're required to pay monthly for trash, and unless something's changed in the last year or two, it's then taken to the landfill in Marshall County. And so, and I don't know if it's the same with Franklin, but at least in Spring Hill, every resident pays for trash pickup and waste removal.
They do, but the tax portion that would go to solid waste, they do not pay. But they still go to the Thompson Station Convenience Center.
Some of them do, yes.
Commissioner Mason?
Mac, thank you. I've actually learned quite a bit, and I am kind of curious. I would like to take a tour now, so I may reach out to do that. But for right now, I would like to call the question.
Have a motion to call the question. Do I hear a second?
Second.
We'll do this by voice vote. All those in favor of calling the question signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Question is called. So if we're ready to vote, all those in favor of Resolution 102319 signify by pressing your yes button. Any opposed, your no. Anyone wishing to change their vote, please do so at this time. Record the vote, please, Mr. Whitby.
17 yes, 3 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 102322, resolution authorizing the Williamson County Mayor to execute a memorandum of understanding with the City of Franklin for provision of breathalyzer tests by the Sheriff's Office to city employees. Proper motion made by Commissioner Megan Guffey, seconded by Commissioner Tom Tunnicliffe. Law Enforcement Public Safety was 7-4-0 against. Budget Committee was 5-4-0 against. Explanation, please, Commissioner Sanford.
So this resolution is at the request of the City of Franklin to request assistance from the Sheriff's Office if one of their city employees is involved in a vehicle accident while operating a city-owned vehicle. This will allow the Sheriff's Department to go out and issue breathalyzer tests to those employees. It will be at no cost to those employees unless they are charged with a DUI, and there's going to be some type of fee associated, I assume, with court costs in there.
Any questions? Seeing none, if you're ready to vote, if you're in favor, signify by pressing your yes button. Any opposed, your no. Anyone wishing to change their vote, please do so at this time. Record the vote, please, Mr. Whitby.
20 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 102323, resolution to accept the 2023 Countywide Parks and Recreation Master Plan for Williamson County, Tennessee. Proper motion made by Commissioner Tom Tunnicliffe, seconded by Commissioner Paul Webb. The Budget Committee was 5-4-0 against. Parks and Rec was 6-4-0 against. Explanation, please, Commissioner Webb.
You had the presentation from our outside consultants and Director Hampton this afternoon, or this evening, so I think we've gone through this. If there are any more questions, I would ask Gordon to come back and answer those this time.
I have a question from Commissioner Lawrence.
Thank you and other guys here with the parks for hanging in with us tonight. And I know it's late, so I'll just be brief. But I like the plan, but the number of 523 million scares me. So do we have, as part of this plan, do you have a mechanism for funding this that's self-sustaining, or is there the anticipation of a lot of bond money that's going to have to be borrowed for this?
So Commissioner Lawrence, all we're asking at this time is that this commission adopt this plan strictly as a planning tool only. We are not asking you to fund the $500 million. There is, as part of the plan, there are some recommendations on ways that other departments have generated revenues to fund master plans for Parks and Recreation, but we're only asking for you to adopt this as a planning tool.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, if we're ready to vote, if you're in favor, signify by pressing your yes button. Any opposed, your no. Anyone wishing to change their vote, please do so at this time. Commissioner Williams. Record the vote, please, Mr. Whitby.
19 yes, 1 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 102324, this is the one that was pulled from the consent agenda, resolution authorizing the Williamson County Mayor to execute an agreement for dedication of a utility easement. Proper motion made by Commissioner Lisa Hayes, seconded by Commissioner Tom Tunnicliffe. Parks and Recreation was 6-4-0 against. Property Committee was 6-4-0 against. Explanation, please, Commissioner Webb.
To be honest with you, I don't have a lot more than what's here in the resolution, so is there anyone here, Mayor Anderson? I think the mayor could. He's been involved with this more than I have been involved at all, so perhaps he should come up and answer any questions.
We have one question so far. Question comes from Commissioner Greg Lawrence.
Yeah, it's really more of a comment. I guess maybe I have a question for the mayor, but this issue came up, and it's with Trinity Elementary. There's a a tower that we have constructed, and it's within 600 feet of the school. As the gentleman came, the parent came tonight and spoke about, we had some come to the last meeting. And they have sent us a lot of emails. I think it kind of took a lot of us by surprise. It wasn't something we were really thinking about or anticipating, but as I have looked into this, this is an issue that's come up a lot nationwide with the issue of schools and cell towers next to schools and the radiation that comes off the cell tower. As I see it, there's not really enough evidence to show that it's not safe, but there's not enough evidence to say that it is safe, because 5G hasn't been around, but 3-4 years, I guess, and so. I understand a parent's concern out there, and this is not the first time this is going to come up. There's 6 of these going in, and I think at least 2 more of them are going in next to school buildings. So some of your other districts that you're going to be faced maybe with the same situation, depending on how close they're going to put these to the schools. So I guess my question is, Mayor, if we voted no or deferred this tonight, would it to give us a little more time to maybe look at what as the gentleman said, they have some medical personnel that would consult with us at least and get us some data on the issue.
So let me give you the snapshot of everything that we're trying to do. And it goes back for several years from a public safety, law enforcement side of trying to stay connected for our law enforcement community, our ambulance side, for the consumer side, school safety side. I guess about 3 years ago, I was sitting there trying to think, 3 or 4 years ago, was that about right? We ran into how we're going to provide this connectivity throughout Williamson County. We really noticed it during the pandemic, where kids couldn't pull their lessons from their homes. We noticed it in our Matt Largent Economic Development says that over 28% or 30% of the people work from home. We noticed it. People were saying they didn't have good connectivity. We formed a partnership with Middle Tennessee, United Middle Tennessee Electric, where they're providing a lot of cellular service from the College Grove, coming up from that area all the way to Arrington, Triune, Brentwood area, and then swing back over to Bethesda and back over to Fairview. So we were seeing all of this activity, but we still needed cellular service towers in certain parts. We had dead spots. We had areas where our law enforcement community, ambulances, even your own cell service would drop when you were driving from point A to point B. We reached out to Tower. We've had a record with Tower. Tower's always been able to find locations for us that the carriers would want to use, AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile, and try to identify those areas throughout our county that they could put these towers up so we could have better cellular service. It took us the better part of 2 years to do our zoning following the federal guidelines. I mean, there are certain things we can do and there are certain things we can't do in our zoning based on cellular towers through FCC. There's documentation, Commissioner, for, like the gentleman spoke tonight, that would say it, this is not safe, and then there'd be documentation over here that's saying that not enough. I mean, we're into that, Sam Cruz's comment, we're in a balancing act. But I do know we need more cellular connectivity throughout our county. We spent $20 million through the, but not how much money we, $20 million. Some of that was state grant money, pairing it up with our rescue money and pairing it up with Middle Tennessee money to get better reception in that area. If you all don't want cell towers on county-owned property, then I'll tell Tower we're not going to do that. But they grid this. This isn't what the county found a location. They grid this within FCC guidelines and said this is the spot to put a tower. It's so many feet. He said 300 feet. Is that what he said?
I think
600 feet. I don't know what he said.
It's 600 feet away from us.
We've met with several constituents that have come in the office. Yes, we're looking at the Longview area. There's a real shortage of connectivity out there. We're looking up in the Brentwood area. There's a real shortness of connectivity. You can run some tower space off from poles in churches and telephone poles and things like that. But you still got to have that height to be able to send those signals from point A to point B. If answer your question, so that's kind of the history. But your question was, what happens if you don't approve this? That site has been approved. The fiber line was because it's on Parks and Rec property as opposed to schools property. The fiber was going to run along the school lines. The tower, their legal folks didn't dot all the I's and cross the T's. So now they've come back and said, can we run the fiber on the school, on the Parks and Rec side? And I don't know, it's a cut so many inches wide to bury the cable, hook it up to the tower. So what happens if you don't vote on it? We had a conversation with Tower, with their carriers that would buy that space. They can put a satellite there. And that's within their right to do that, to put a satellite. So that's what you're faced with. And I'm speaking from the people that come in here, that move in here, that call you, drop calls, safety. They're out there, and as our community continues to grow, we've got to find places to help them.
I think the issue,
a tough call.
Yeah, it's the proximity to the school.
They say it's safe.
And some states apparently have a law that says it has to be 1,500 feet. So I don't know where they came up with that number, but that was the reason for the question.
Did I answer it? More?
Commissioner Mary Smith.
I guess back to one of the things you did ask is that if I raised a motion to defer and we just hold off a little bit longer and maybe had more conversations with these parents to put them at ease, because it seems like this happened fairly quickly, and I think a lot of people just were blindsided, and I would like to think that there's some out there that can help kind of calm their concerns, either that or if we're talking about just 900 feet is all they're asking for, can we look and see if there's a possibility of doing that? Because once this goes up and it's hooked up, there's no turning back. So this is really kind of our last opportunity to say, is there something that can be done? Can we defer this for a month or until our January meeting to make the final decision once we actually have a chance to gather more information and discuss this with the folks that are worried? And also to Commissioner Lawrence's point, to look and see, are there better guidelines we should put in place before we approve any more of these towers going up?
Is that a question?
I guess,
Is that a statement?
Well, probably both. But yeah, just can we wait? Is there a problem with us waiting?
I can tell you that they have the right. That's a legal question. But if you turn it down, they can use a satellite. That's what we've been told, and they're prepared to do that.
Mason.
Follow-up question, what is the difference between the satellite and the cellular
Okay, the fiber.
fiber that they're wanting to use? Is there a
They don't have a way They don't have an easement to get to their tower.
Right, but the parent's concern is of the cellular waves, and I don't know how to put it, coming off the tower close to the school. So if they put in a satellite rather than a fiber optic cable, is that going to change any of their concerns? Okay. So my comment was, and this is a difficult one for me because I'm a parent. My child just graduated from elementary school. There's talk about one going by his elementary school, and I understand exactly where parents are coming from. It's the unknown. They're scared. I mean, 70 years ago, it was fine to smoke while you were pregnant, and we now know that that was a bad decision. So I know we keep hearing it's safe, we think it's safe. So I understand exactly where the parents are coming from. I would prefer that we don't have them that close to the school, but I know it's a case of not in my backyard. So as soon as you move it, it's going to be near a neighborhood. But I guess my thought is if it's near a school where you have a large body of children, I would prefer that it be moved away from the schools even further. And that is my concern, because next it's going to come to Spring Hill, and then, as the mayor said, potentially Brentwood. And so I do have a concern. It concerns me that the tower's there and there's nothing really we can do about it. They're going to run it, whether it's the right-of-way or through the satellite. But I guess for me personally, I don't want to make their path any easier when it's this close to a school. And so I will vote no on the issue, but I wanted y'all to kind of understand where I was coming from.
Sanford.
My question is for Elrod. Do you know if, since you're the radio guy at the sheriff's office, oftentimes we have difficulty communicating inside schools, and there's boosters been put in schools so that our comms can talk when we're actually inside the school, because it's a huge safety concern for law enforcement, huge safety concern for fire. Do we know if any of the county radio system is going to be operated on these towers? So therefore, it would be a necessity, in my opinion, to have these towers as close as possible. But
I don't think the radio system will work off of these towers. I think that where it would be an advantage to public safety would be with the Wave app and the Central Square and those other things that work off of the cellular networks, as well as just the cellular phone calls that are made throughout the day, between all of the public safety departments.
So in a crisis situation, which is happening all over the country, I think the communication aspect outweighs the possible risk of 5G waves when every email we got just about was coming from a cell phone. And it's said on there sent from Verizon Wireless or whatever. It's crazy.
Commissioner Richards.
Excuse me, Mayor. During the Budget Committee meeting, you had mentioned that they were going to use microwaves, which I did a little bit of research on, and that's really not a feasible replacement to fiber optics. But now you're mentioning satellite, and I'm having a hard time. Maybe you don't understand what they're even.
I am not a technical guy, but it's my understanding with a satellite dish, they can beam it from one area to the other.
All right, thank you.
That's the best I can do.
Okay, thanks.
Sorry.
Commissioner Sturgeon.
My question is, I heard someone say that they're going to be located at other schools in the county too, like at least 2 other ones. And I'd like to know which schools we're talking about and which districts they're in.
So we are looking at Longview, in that area down around the Parks and Rec area. We are looking at Bethesda and our new park we're building out there, but it's the old section.
Those are schools? That's not a school.
They're parks and recs and schools, any county-owned property, but maybe that's a better way of saying it. I hear the
I'm more
comment.
interested in the schools because I think it's about protecting our children.
We are also looking at some in Grassland area. That's on the kind of on that hillside that we own. But if you all tell me you don't want them on school properties, that's what we'll do. That's all I think. Well, you're going to have to give something more than just that. but you're going to limit what we can do, and I need, One of the things that we did right after Covenant, let me explain what we did. We had school personnel together, we had county folks together, we had all the telephone companies in a room. And we wanted to be sure that inside any of our 52 schools that we could communicate getting in and out. And most of the time that's through a cellular phone. Now that is not the reason that was chosen for the Trinity community out there. But I think it is, whoever asked that question or brought it up, it is very vital that we be able to communicate in and outside of all of our school buildings in times of crisis.
Have any schools where we can't communicate right now?
We have schools that have limited capacity, and I will not answer where those schools are at. But you asked the question. This is transparent, folks. If you all tell me you don't want them near schools, you want them a mile away from schools, I'll tell the carriers that. That's where we'll leave it. But I can tell you, you'll hear the other side of that. And we've gone to the carriers. We've had people in the school system to be sure that we can get out. And they're called repeaters. Now, somebody help me. But if you're AT&T, you can use AT&T equipment. If you've got Verizon, you can do Verizon. And one of our own staff members said in Washington, if you quit paying your phone bill, you haven't made a payment and you still got that phone, that they can indeed still dial 911 in emergency. Now think of that. You haven't paid your phone bill, but you can still dial 911 to get out. Well, why can't we do that same thing with our carriers? Well, Verizon's got their rules, and AT&T's got their rules, and T-Mobile's got their rules, and they don't just blend over into the other one's network. So we're trying to do our best to provide. This is not a fun journey. So if y'all say don't put them on schools, we'll take them off. From this point on, we won't do any more schools. But we've got legal issues with this one. Do what? No, probably not going to stop this one. If you don't want them on schools, on county-owned property, then that's what we'll tell them. But this one's not technically on school property. It's within a few feet of it. But it is on Parks and Rec property. And tough call.
Mary Smith's already spoken, so I will hold your place in queue and go to Commissioner Judy Herbert.
We'll take the cell tower out at Flat Creek because we don't have any cell service, and you can go miles and miles and not talk on your phone. So people need to understand when you don't have cell services, you don't get to use your phone. But can I also call the question?
Had a few calling of the questions with a comment before, which I think technically is not advised, but I do have a motion, and I'll entertain a second.
Second.
Proper motion and second made to call the question. We'll do this by voice vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
I believe the ayes have it. The question has been called. So we're on to voting on Resolution 1023-24. If you're in favor, signify by pressing your yes button. If you're against, signify by pressing your no button. Anyone wishing to change their vote, please do so at this time. Record the vote, please, Mr. Whitby.
13 yes, 7 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 1023-25, resolution amending the rules, regulations, and procedures of the Williamson County Board of Commissioners concerning the consent agenda found under Rule 3.9. Looking for a motion. Proper motion made by Commissioner Morton, seconded by Commissioner Steve Smith. The Rules Committee was 6-4-0 against. Explanation, please, Commissioner Steve Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a fairly simple addition to items that could be included in the consent agenda. It involves no money. You can see in the resolution it involves the reduction of the speed limit on roads in the county road system. These are resolutions that are routinely brought to the commission. They don't involve any money. They tend to be a commissioner courtesy situation of the particular commissioners in the district that the road is in. And in order to save time on the agenda and space on the agenda, we felt like this would be a good addition to.
Any questions? Got a question from Commissioner Matt Williams.
I got a lot of county roads in our district. Just real quick, can we get an education on what the process is for reducing the speed limits prior to coming to the commission? So I believe that goes to the Highway Commission, but I would like to know what some of those steps are before we just blanket it in the consent agenda.
Bobby Cook.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The process is quite simple. Fortunately, we are a county in a certain system where basically all it requires is your approval. But we do run it through the Highway Commission. Eddie takes a look at it. We have our engineers take a look at it just to make sure there's not a safety issue. And then it comes before you all. And so basically, once the Highway Commission has done all their due diligence, Highway Commission has approved it, you're kind of a rubber stamp on it, so.
Do you know what the due diligence incorporates?
I'm sure it's a traffic count, at least, most of the time. Sometimes they don't need it, where it's just, you've got a road that's rural, and for some reason it's 45 miles per hour, and you've had accidents on it. So we do look at accidents also.
Bobby, if I may, just from a legal standpoint, as we did tonight, anybody can pull a resolution from the consent agenda. It just takes one commissioner requesting that. Is that correct?
Correct.
Any other questions on this resolution? Seeing none, if you're ready to vote, all those in favor signify by pressing your yes button. Any opposed, your no. Anyone wishing to change their vote, please do so at this time. Record the vote, please, Mr. Whidbey.
19 yes, 1 no.
Resolution passes. I'd like to thank the sheriff's deputies for their presence tonight, and all department heads for staying as late as they did. Is there any other business to come before this board? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. We are adjourned.